This is the RRN broadcasting from the heart of Oregon, Salem's capital. Welcome in, my fellow Oregonians listening from Coos Bay, Bandon, Oregon, Grants Pass, Portland, Crater Lake, Rogue River, and of course Salem. All my fellow Salemites. We are Salem, Oregon's first cryptozoological network devoted to the study of the unknown or hidden animal. There's some things I want to address today on this show, special edition, I guess you could say. Things that are probably dear to my heart. With the passing of Milt Marcy, I felt it was only necessary. A long-time explorer, adventurer, truth seeker, who's done some amazing work in this field. And there's other people who have done amazing work as well. I've had the chance to speak to over and over again in the years past. Some have reached out to me saying, hey, I don't really know a whole lot about your fellow researcher, Garth Guessman. For those who are a little bit familiar with him, he is part of South Bay Science. He also is a member of Genesis Park. I think that one's mostly spearheaded by Dave Wetzel. But he is also an avid researcher of this phenomena like I am. Of course, we'll have our own segment of the hidden animal. But you'll have a chance to hear from an avid paleontologist and researcher. For years, he's been doing this field work. I don't think he's been doing or conducting any work in this particular field. However, he has had hands-on paleontology work, extensive studies into the unknown, and also has documented a lot of his discoveries in his book. I've been wanting to have him on the network for a while now, and now I'm going to finally have a chance to do so. And I will say that in the coming year, or the coming months, there may be a possibility that I can have a conversation with Travis Lee Carpenter, the son of Scott Carpenter. If most of you are familiar with Scott, he's done amazing work related to a lot of these cryptids that have been cited over the years. Sasquatch, Dogman, and others. In a sense, we're wondering if we can actually put a pin in this one and say, hey, let's stop theorizing and come up with an answer of what these things are. And I think in many ways it's very clear what they are. Most people say you can't say that. You can only theorize. How could you know exactly what they are or where they come from? Well, some people actually do. They may have a stronger theory than others. I don't even know if it's a theory anymore. Over the years, I've said I'm done with diplomacy on this one. These are not natural creatures. They're not part of our natural world. They are foreign to it. However, their genetic code may have been here since the beginning of time, along with the fallen beings. So are they kind of an offspring of those fallen angelic beings? I think they are. I think they're a genetic code that's been made up to form, now we can get into a theory, but I think this is fact. Super soldiers. Hybrids. Just let loose on our planet. Some being for the human race, maybe decided, hey, we're not going to do that. And some saying, I'll obey. Now, for those who think far and away from what we think, now, I'm not saying those who avidly pay attention to this field. No, those who are new to all of this, it's mind-boggling and it's something they're going to reject because they don't accept it as truth. They think it's far-fetched, outlandish, and ridiculous. That's just normal society, or that is the scientific community. We don't care. There is archaeological evidence to support this information. And that's what one of my guests is going to do today. He's going to shed some light on it. Just briefly. Because I'm planning on having him return for a one-on-one interview in person so he can share with us the histories and mysteries of our Earth. in lieu of the passing of Milt Marcy, he sent me an article that he had refuted or debated with CMI. This is Creation Ministries International. And I used to be an ardent supporter of them. Now, I want to make something very clear here. I still support them. For the most part, they're doing great work. There's also ICR. There's also Dr. Baugh's Museum. However, in recent years, Dr. Baugh's Museum has been more receptive to our work because Dr. Baugh has seen these creatures with his own eyes. It's hard for anyone else to get on to that bandwagon if they haven't had an experience for themselves. That's where Baugh comes in. That's why he is completely supportive of the work that we do and others who have come before us. Other organizations, no. And they had an article that they published, and Milt Marcy responded to this article. And we're going to share that with you. Only it's going to be a little bit more difficult to convey. I thought about having somebody else fill in the opposition and those who are for. So, naturally, since Milt sent me the documentation, I think it'd only be fitting that I read his part. And perhaps maybe Garth will be willing to be the opposition. We'll see what he says. I think this is a wonderful debate here. Nicely put together. If you think about it, a lot of these organizations have their own agenda. I get that. And it's their attempt to fit in to the secular world. They're not going to admit that. They want to be taken seriously. And they're overlooking the most important aspects. Maybe even trouncing on their fellow brethren to get there. Maybe that sounds harsh. I don't care. Now, before we get into that conversation, has anyone out there ever heard of paleontologist Tracy Lee Ford? Well, he's been a part of the paleontology world for a long time. He's even got a show on YouTube called Fossil Crates. Now, he mentions that there is a problem with this Tyrannosaur anatomy of them having lips. Does that sound strange to you? I'm sure you've heard this before, but folks, there is this new theory or maybe a new scientific study that's suggesting that tyrannosaurids have lips of some sort. And there's traces of it. They're actually comparing them to Komodo dragons, which do have lips. And I brought this up in the past, and at first I was for it because it made sense. And then you listen to both sides, because I'm going to be very clear here, and this is split. This isn't an over-dominating idea or concept or scientific study. No, it's not. There are those who oppose it and say it's absolute nonsense. So I wanted to hear both sides of this. And I have. Now for Tracy, I got to hear his side of it too. And it's very enlightening. Especially with someone who's actually taken the time to study the Tyrannosaurus skull itself. Now, Tracy is not a creationist. He's an evolutionist. You know, that's what he believes. But I was wanting to hear his thoughts on this. Now, you could personally go and watch his video if you wanted to. But I thought it might be better just to have him on the show. If he's willing to talk to us. A lot of these guys would not even dare to risk their reputation and be heard on a station like this. But you never know. Sometimes they're saying, hey, you know what? I don't mind talking to anybody. These guys. It's all right. They're more receptive to it, more welcoming to it. Well, we'll find out, though. I would like to see if I can get Tracy on the show. There is that opportunity coming up. And I'd like to hear what he has to say. And a lot of people agree with him. Lots and lots of people agree with him. I'm not so sure I do. This whole lip structure is kind of got people in knots. Maybe not so many of them. Whether he has it or does not. Maybe these species have this skin texture that wraps over their teeth. There's bound to be something showing, right? And I thought about this a little bit more to add a little bit more clarity. It would make sense if the teeth are sticking out if you are a marine reptile. And you can come back to the northosaur. Or how about the plesiosaur? Studies show that their teeth actually stuck out. This is a water dweller. So that anatomy of the teeth sticking out makes sense to me. I can't imagine them having lips. I don't think they do. Not the marine reptiles. No. Land dwellers would make more sense. Again, we have to see if there's substantial evidence to back this claim before pushing it out there. Tracy insists that there is not enough evidence to support it. He is in opposition of this lip texture. And there's a reason why. As a matter of fact, I'll let you hear a snippet of what he has to say, and you can decide for yourself with just that snippet. You really can't take it to the full extreme unless you hear everything to what he has to say. All the research that he's gathered. Like I said, we'll have an opportunity for that later on in the coming months. So here's Tracy Lee Ford. I'm going to let you listen to a little bit of what he has to say, and then we'll take it to the next level with an upcoming show. But here's Tracy for now.
Hi, my name is Tracy Lee Ford. I'm going to be talking about why I believe theropods didn't have lips. My very first paper that I presented was on why theropods didn't have lips. It was in 1997 at the Mesa Southwest Museum. And since then, I've been doing more papers, more posters, more research on why theropods didn't have lips. And after this video, I hope you understand why and you follow that theropods didn't have lips. Reptiles in general are divided in different groups. We got the anapsids, synapsids, and your diapsids. And basically what it means is holes in the heads. And not just all the holes, but actually the holes behind the eye. This is the eye. So this is the lateral temporal fenestra. We'll talk about that one. And that one, which is the supratemporal fenestra. Now, anapsids don't have this at all. There's other bones that are very important in this discussion. That is the premaxilla, the maxilla, the dentary, the surangular, this little U-shaped bone, which is the ectoterygoid, and a little bit about the nasal. Now, the diapsids are also divided into two groups. You got your lepidiosaurs, which are your lizard snakes, and your tuatara. And you got your archosaurs, which are your crocodiles, dinosaurs, pterosaurs, birds, pseudotsuchians. Even though they're both diapsids, they're totally two different groups. It's like apples and oranges, which will be important later on in this discussion. Now, what got me started in this whole thing was actually this book. I was looking at the cover. It's a frilled lizard. I was looking at its mouth. I was looking at its teeth. And you got your lip. And you got something in between the two. And that's what I wanted to find out. What is in between the two? It turns out that in the lepidiosaurs, it's the labial oral gland. So you got your teeth, the lip, the gingiva, which is the soft tissue, and this little white line, that is the labial oral gland. So you got lizards, snakes. So where it sits is right here on the maxilla and the dentary. So you can see the gingiva is light pink and the labial oral glands.
He's making some very good fine points here that a lot of people are skipping over. And he's looking at structures that you can compare in other creatures, other reptiles, other lizards. Okay? We'll see what else he has to say. Can you compare apples to oranges? In this case, maybe not.
The lizard closes its jaws. The jaws don't completely occlude to each other.
A man who works hard sweats hard.
Old Spice swagger fights sweat. So Coach thought.
And if the upper teeth went below the lower jaw, it would bite into the gingiva and the labial oil gland, so they don't want that to happen. So when they close their jaw, there's a gap. These ones occlude. These ones have a gap. So here,
again,
it's
another
closed,
fine point.
but it's not occluding to each other. And that is different than what you see in theropod dinosaurs. And it closes, but that's as far as it'll close, but you still see a gap. So this gap is filled in with the lips and the gingiva. What's interesting is that even though these teeth are really huge, the soft tissue gingiva just about closes up all that area. And you can see it. So this dark line is where the lips meet.
He's got skull
So you can
anatomy that
see
he's showing us right now.
that even though there's a gap, the lip, the gingiva is covering everything. This is a Gila monster. You can see it has a really big gap, but you can see the line of the lips is just covering up anything. And when it opens the mouth, you really can't see the teeth because the gingiva is covering it all up. But that's not how it is in theropods. Okay, now this is a model of the tough-loved T-Rex. And you can see how much it can close. Actually, it can close a little bit more. But you can see how the teeth overhang the lower jaw, and it doesn't do it in the lizards. And when it opens up, you can see when it closes just how much it overhangs. This is
He's showing us their 3D models
Velociraptor
and actual skulls
from Mongolia. And you can see how much when it closes, how far it closes. And you see how far the upper teeth fit. Now the lower teeth fit right into the upper jaw. And some of that is determined by the palate, which is the top of the...
Again, like I'm saying, a lot of people are not going to understand this. Ooh, it looks like I've got Garth Guessman calling me in. One moment as we bring him in. Hi, Garth. How are you doing?
Hey, how you doing?
So, I've probably got you at a bad time then, because I really kind of needed, I don't know, a nice place for you to sit down and chat with me, because it sounds like you're on the road, you're on the go.
No, I'm sitting down in a very empty outdoor restaurant, and I'm around the corner from the concert, so it's kind of quieter here.
Oh, nice. Okay. Well, maybe we can still do this after all. Let me pause this. I was actually explaining to the audience Tyrannosaur anatomy and whether or not they have lips, something we're trying to understand here. So I probably caught you at a time when you probably didn't expect to be on a radio show.
No, I really thought it was a private call, but that's fine. I'm ready to go.
All right. So let me put that aside right now, folks, and we'll come back to this anatomy when you can hear more. But what I'd like to do here is, Garth, there's a lot of people who are hearing your name and they want to know more about you. Now, you and I have addressed this in the past, but they are not familiar with those videos from the past. So I wanted to know if you'd be so kind to enlighten me a little bit, to share with the audience your background, how some of this got started, and why you chose to embark on it. Can you give us a little bit?
Now, you're talking about the Monster Quest video, is that right?
Before we get to that video, there must have been something that piqued your interest that you can maybe share with us.
Right. Well, I've been involved in creation science ever since I was in high school. The leaders of the creation science group at my church took me out to a creation meeting in Orange County. And the guest speaker was an amateur paleontologist. And he was talking about how humans and dinosaurs have existed together throughout history. And he didn't just say it. He, of course, you could show many places throughout Scripture where dragons are mentioned, and of course, people are in Scripture showing that they existed together. But he actually brought some rocks that had human footprints in them. I mean, had like a sandal human footprint.
He came with proof.
Yeah. And it actually kind of looked like a cowboy boot to me. But anyway, that's just the general shape of it as far as what a cowboy boot print would look like. But it was a little softer and had a reminiscence of a moccasin. And I couldn't believe it. Basically, he had these rocks that were taken right from Jurassic strata. In this case, it was in Arizona, that were, obviously human. And what were they doing in dinosaur strata? Well, it just fit from what I had been learning about what the Scripture said about humans and dinosaurs living together. Pardon the traffic noise in the background there.
It's okay.
Yeah, and it just fired me up, when I first came to the Lord, that was a very powerful moment. And this was another very powerful moment that God used to really focus me on taking the Scripture literally. If it says dragons, well, that's just the old word for dinosaur. It's the dinosaur was kind of invented in the 1800s. So what did they use before that? The word dragon. Mm-hmm. And of course, a dragon is more all-inclusive. It includes the swimming reptiles and the walking, reptiles that walked upright. And I just was really fired up by it. That was like about 1989, right in that era. Yeah.
It begins somewhere, doesn't it, Garth?
Oh, yeah. I take that back. I graduated in 85, so it'd be 83, 84, somewhere in there.
Okay.
Yeah, even further.
Yeah, folks, I'm just a baby compared to him. He's actually called me a baby anyway. I guess that's a compliment. Yeah, but he's done a lot of great work over the years, and a lot of people have started to just become more familiar with you, which is good. I want that. I want that for our network. I want people to say, hey, I know that guy. That face is very familiar. And then they see you in the video on Monster Quest. And
sure.
They're like, okay, so all this now culminates. He has learned of evidence that the Scriptures support what we're doing. And then suddenly, before you know it, as time goes by, he's introduced to more of it. And then this History Channel comes along and says, hey, would you be willing to be a part of this episode? But I'm sure that's not how it went, though, Garth. Tell us how it all began for that episode.
Oh, that episode?
Yeah.
Well, it started off that when David Wetzel and I went to Papua New Guinea in 2004, just before that, just a month before we got there, I think we got there in late October. So, or maybe we got there actually in like November, something like that. And Jonathan Whitcomb, who is a Mormon friend of mine. Now, I'm a Protestant evangelical believer in Christ. He's Mormon. So of course we have big theological differences.
Sure.
But where we overlap and where we agree on is that dinosaurs and the cryptozoological phenomenon that we are finding is legit, and that the world was created about 6,000 years ago, give or take, and that God made everything in 6 days. That includes human and dinosaurs. They all got on the ark. All types of animals got on the ark, including people. That would include dinosaurs and pterosaurs. And the only thing that wouldn't be on the ark, right, is plesiosaurs, the ones who swim. They wouldn't be killed off by a flood.
Mm-hmm.
Some would, but not all of them. And they all got off the ark. And every country around the world has stories of dragons in their cultures, in their history. And so David and I went to Papua New Guinea, and Jonathan Whitcomb, he wanted to go with us. And because of our theological differences, we decided that we would be, gentlemanly, just say we're going to go on separate trips.
Okay.
And Jonathan would go, and then we would go after that. And it really kind of was cool because we got different perspectives, and we were able to share notes after the meeting. But I didn't want to like preach that Christ was God, equal to the Father, in essence and substance, and go through the Trinity formula, and have him right there saying, "No, we don't believe that."
I see.
That's why we did it.
Makes sense.
Because when David and I go, he's a Baptist, I'm Pentecostal, but at the same time, we're evangelical believers, and we wanted to make sure our doctrines that we're communicating to them was consistent. And so we would. We had 4 people make recommitments to Christ while we were there. Mm. We taught the gospel everywhere we went, and then we asked to go out into the fields and have people lead us. And so that's how we kind of go about it. It's kind of what would you call it? A specialized mission, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because ultimately, we want people to take God at His word, and that He wants a relationship with them. And all the other things that are in Scripture are true as well. And if it describes dragons coexisting with people, well, it's not a fairy tale. It really happened.
Especially when there's lots of evidence for it.
Yes, the historical evidence, archaeological evidence, and paleontological evidence. And now we're finding that they are living in remote locations, but they're living still today. And we can find that evidence too. And so David Wetzel and I, in 2004, went. And when Jonathan, he had already gone, we all got back. Jonathan wrote a book. And that kind of got the ball started. Paul Nation was one of Dr. Baugh's. I'm saying a lot of names here. I hope I'm not throwing people off.
No, not at all.
Dr. Baugh is the president and founder of the Creation Evidence Museum in Glen Rose, Texas. Yep. He's pulling together more human and dinosaur footprints together from the same strata than pretty much any other museum in the world, I believe.
It's true.
And he was the one that initially encouraged me to, after I found out about living pterosaurs and that Dr. Baugh was doing the research in Papua New Guinea from a creation meeting I was leading. Dr. Thomas Kindle had heard about it and got a business card with a pterosaur on the full thing, from Dr. Baugh. And he went and, said, we're in Papua New Guinea. We're trying to make inroads. I think he went there a total of 3 or 4 times, starting in 1993. And, that kind of got the whole ball rolling. So I called Dr. Baugh and just learned everything I could. He told me to get a hold of some other creationists and cryptozoologists to get even more information. And in 2004, actually it was 2002, we had tried to get a trip going then with Paul Nation was Dr. Baugh's right-hand man for the creation research of pterosaurs in Papua New Guinea. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And he, getting a little distracted here, so sorry. He gave him kind of the reins. After Dr. Baugh was slowing down in his research towards Papua New Guinea and the pterosaurs, he gave everything over to Paul Nation. He continued another 5 or 6 trips to Papua New Guinea. And in 2002, he wanted to get us to go. David Wetzel, Dr. Donald Patton, he's a Church of Christ pastor, and myself and him. And it all kind of fell through. But David and I had enough money that we funded ourselves and went. And that's how, but Paul Nation gave us all the particulars of where to go. This is where we left off on our research. This is where you guys should pick up the ball and keep researching in these locations.
Oh, wonderful.
That kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's very, very helpful. And so we went to Papua New Guinea. David Wetzel did see the flying lights of the pterosaur.
Yep.
Real distinct, large one that he could really pick out. I'm sure I saw plenty of them, but they were really blended in as shooting stars. So I really couldn't say absolutely for sure. Now, thinking back, I said, yeah, I likely saw quite a few. But we learn as we go about how to differentiate them from other objects in the sky, like helicopters and shooting stars and fireflies. And
I can honestly
birds
say,
and bats.
Garth, that I'm so happy to be able to join you on that, because now I've had my own experience with this light that I never thought would happen. And I completely understand what all of you have been saying all these years now. I'm completely mesmerized by it, as I told you in the past about my sighting last year.
Yeah, I heard about that. That's amazing.
So I'm on par now, when I wasn't before, but hey, that's okay. Sometimes we got to learn by an experience, and I did. So this trip with Papua New Guinea, how did History Channel come about? I'm sure you're getting to that, but I just got to quickly jump in there.
Yeah. Thanks for dialing me back in. So the book that Jonathan Whitcomb wrote was something like, I can't think of the name of it. I'm so sorry.
Searching for Ropens and Finding God?
Yeah. Well, no, there was one before that.
Okay.
That's probably just Searching for Ropens. It might have been that one.
All right.
But, this guy in Florida, he's a business owner. He's like a computer or gamer business owner. He read the book and really liked it. And so he called up Jonathan and says, hey, I want to send you back to Papua New Guinea. I want to fund another expedition. I really like this research you're doing. Well, as you know, it really cuts into family life. And Jonathan Whitcomb is getting ready, not too far out from retirement. So he and his wife decided, no, we just can't afford to go on another trip, even if somebody pays for it. Mm. And he asked, hey, call up Garth. Maybe Garth will go. So sure enough, I was able to check it out. I take that back. I think he said, go to David Wetzel. I was the third in line. He says, yeah, call David Wetzel, the president of Genesis Park. He's more than likely able to go, and he'd definitely be a rich resource for you to do a show with. Well, I get a call from David Wetzel, and he says, hey, Garth, I can't go, man. If you want to go, I'll give him your phone number. Yeah, I'll think about going. Sure. So they were able to work it out. And I basically went for the cost of my pay that I would be getting at work and the overtime I would be missing, because I was semi-dependent on overtime.
Right.
And yeah, they paid that and had made the trip happen. They also brought along you if those have seen it, it's university professor, doctor with paleontology, plus specializing in pterosaurology.
Yeah.
And then there was also a bat expert, a cameraman, and a sound man. And that was the Monster Quest crew along with myself.
Yep.
And we went there 2009. Yeah. So that was really cool.
That was season 3, was it not?
Season 3, episode 15. It's called The Flying Monsters episode.
Yep. You
can get it on Amazon Prime, or if you go, it might also be bootlegged onto YouTube or something. I don't know.
It probably is. Actually, it is on YouTube. That's for YouTube. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's okay.
But if you want the high definition and all that, I would just stick with Amazon Prime. It's pretty cheap that way.
Yeah, agree. Yeah, I think that Josh Gates from Destination Truth also launched an expedition, but I think they were looking for the Indaba, which is Paul Nation's baby. That's his.
It's the same thing.
Yeah,
it's the same creatures.
It's terrible.
Whether they have tail. I mean, Jonathan Whitcomb likes to really make an emphasis on differentiating between the tailed and the long-tailed and the short-tailed pterosaurs. In Papua New Guinea, they don't differentiate them.
No, they don't.
If they're a flying reptile that glows at night, it's a ropen or an indaba. They all kind of are in the same boat.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And they might actually know of different species, but not in general. In general, it's just a flying reptile.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
one of those
Josh
amazing
Gates
experiences
with Destination Truth.
Yeah.
He actually called me before he went.
Oh,
and he asked me for advice. So I told him where to go. I told him what to look for, and I got him in contact with Jacob Keepus, and he took the ball and ran.
Nice.
And the crazy thing about it was they had much better photographic equipment than David and I did, and they actually got some decent.
Yes, they did.
What do you call it? Bioluminescence at night. I think it was just this thing hovering out there, maybe 100 yards out, and it's weird because there was a relatively large one and a relatively small one side by side.
Mm-hmm.
They could have been flying like that, or maybe it was one that was just gliding and that was its tail, and the tail flange was having a smaller light.
Correct.
It's hard to say, but he definitely got two nice lights, which were fairly close over a cliff in the middle of the air with his photographic equipment.
Yeah.
Destination Truth.
Definitely one of the best compelling evidence we have, along with pollination. And then what our two boys, Peter Beach and Milt Marcy, encountered for themselves too in Papua New Guinea.
Yeah.
So there has been evidence of these guys. No doubt about it. Right. I mean, when you have something that's far away, when you're trying to record it, which is what, Marcy and Beach did. Some might say that's more of a fuzzy Bigfoot thing, but you can still make it out. It's pretty darn good. Just others have speculated that it's not a Ropen, but that's
and there's enough crossover with other possible bird silhouettes that it's encouraging to us because we do see the little bumps on the middle of the wings indicating possible claws. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
You don't tend to see those little bumps. I'm talking about something really big and really far away, and all we could get out of that is a little bump on the video footage of it. But nevertheless, it's encouraging to us as researchers.
Sure is.
It's nothing that we can go to the world and say, yeah, we've got proof positive, but definitely encouraging for us researchers.
Yes, it is. And I love for my audience to know who they're listening to. That you can have a reliable source here. Someone who's been on these treks, who understands the phenomena and has done some great research over the years. And that's what Garth Guessman has done. And it has been an honor to know him as a friend and have him as a friend, call him my friend, and to be able to go on these treks with him, which I hope to do again real soon. But how much time do I have with you right now, Garth? How much time can you give me?
We're good. We're good. Yeah, keep going.
Okay, I want to address something here. I was going to respond to this on... let's see here. What did Hunter put on here? Oh, YouTube. On the YouTube channel. It was a comment. And I can't overlook it because I think it's important for anyone who is confused when it comes to evolution and creation. So here's what I like to do. I'm going to read it. And I'd like to get your 2 cents, and I'll add mine too, okay? Okay, it says, look, fellas, I am absolutely a believer in God, and I do believe that we are living in a created universe. But I don't understand why so many Christians are threatened by evolution. Evolution doesn't prove God's non-existent. It proves that God is intelligent enough to create adaptable animals. I think the Earth is geologically ancient, and I have no problem with the scientific understanding of geology and paleontology. And I think the evidence in favor of evolution is overwhelming. But who cares? It doesn't disprove God in the slightest. The only thing it does disprove is the very reductionist, childish account of creation written in the Bible. That's okay, too. Men obviously wrote the Bible. It's fine if there's some errors. Nothing humans do is ever perfect. That's just my 2 cents. I wish the religious and scientific people could all get along. That said, I enjoy these videos and about surviving dinosaurs. They probably do exist. At least I really hope so. Have a great day, everybody. And this is from Naomi Serafina 9718. Now, I will say this comment is a little contradicting, but let's get your sense on this one, Garth.
First of all, is that a guy or a woman? I didn't make out the name.
Hard to tell. When I see a name like Naomi, I think it's a woman.
Okay, I'll just say the person really came across kind. They were not abrasive. I appreciate that in a kind of a friendly debate format. Mm. But yeah, I mean, you just start off with the time transition. Thermodynamics takes place by chance. Let's go down that outline. First of all, there's not enough time for evolution to occur. When you really come down to it and you take the assumption of uniformitarianism, that all the present processes are happening at a certain rate, have been happening for all time of creation. When you take that into account, you have, like, for example, salt is flowing into the ocean as rivers rinse it into the ocean. Evaporation happens, and only the water evaporates, goes in the form of rain back to those rivers that get more salt. And so you have a conveyor belt of salt going into the earth. If it's been going into the earth for the billions of years that it's supposed to have, the ocean should not be able to have any kind of fish. It would be like the Dead Sea. It would be way too salty. Based on the present rates, the uniformitarianism. Now, how can we get certain rates to increase? Well, yeah, we can increase the rates, but they claim that everything's happened pretty much the way it is now, and the rates aren't changing. Rubidium, you name the element going into the ocean, they're all indicators of way less than 1 million years of accumulation in the ocean. Now you say, Garth, the flood happened only a few thousand years ago. How could it have 1 million years of accumulation? Even though that won't support enough time for evolution to occur, it's still way too much for the creation timeline in Scripture. That's because you can increase the amount of things going into the ocean quickly. Catastrophes like the flood. And so, yeah, you can increase it, but you just can't slow it down. Yeah. Backwards. I'm getting a call. I'm trying to put them on hold. So there's not enough time for evolution to occur. The old Earth chronometers, like radiometric dating, are completely contrived. They come up with certain preconceived notions as to what the starting ratios of the parent product and daughter product were. Yep. And they tend to just say there was all parent product and there was no daughter product. And when they try to account for contamination, they'll put some extra less parent product and more daughter product. The bottom line is they are going to get a number that corresponds with the timeline of evolution. They have a bias and they're going to stick with it, or, they're not going to have a job. Right. They like to point to one another's work and say, yeah, but this guy says this and this guy says that, but they're all buying into everybody else's. It's a big circular reasoning, where they are saying, I believe it, he believes the same thing, he believes the same thing. How can we all be wrong? I mean, that's just not the way you do science.
No.
There's not enough time for evolution to occur. Answers in Genesis, Creation Research International, and what's the other one? Creation Research Society. There is a lot of resources where you can get information about not enough time. Yep. And finally, there's transitional forms. The missing links are still missing. They can debate about some oddities, but the bottom line is even evolutionists are going to tell you that the missing links aren't working. Yep. They don't exist the way they say they're supposed to exist. And so, if you, I think the best one is the mammal-like reptiles are supposed to have evolved into mammals, right? So mammals have one jawbone. Reptiles have 6 jawbones. Well, they say that in the process of becoming a mammal, the 6 jawbones fused together, their joints moved around, and it was able to continue to eat and, breathe and all that. No. And here, no. They say the extra bones of the mammal, we have 3 bones in our ear, our inner ear, and the reptile has 1 bone in its inner ear. So they say the extra bones from the jaw migrated up into the ear. And you're talking a huge size difference too, right?
Yes.
Huge. I mean, ear bones are microscopic, and the jaw bones are, very macroscopic, very large. Somehow they were able to shrink down, fit into the ear, and continue with unabated hearing during the whole process. And while it removed jaw bones and put them in the ear, it was able to eat and never have a problem with its eating. So that's the problem.
Yep.
Another one is the fact that it takes place by chance. The statistical chance of life coming from non-living matter is astronomically completely impossible. I think the scientific way of saying it is, it's, like 99.99999% against it, kind of thing. That's how the scientists tend to say it, because they don't want to say completely impossible. They
Right.
make room for the
Slight possible.
yeah, some slight anomaly, basically, no, it's impossible.
Just a slight possibility in their mind.
Well, yeah, however slight it can be, when a mathematician in dealing with probability uses that kind of terminology, it's his way of saying it's impossible,
Without admitting it.
And the fact that evolution has to defy the laws of thermodynamics, where basically things break down by heat, and they have atrophy. They just atrophy. They break down. They stop working. They have less and less usable energy. You could try to catch as much of the solar energy as you can, but you just can't quite catch it all. You will lose the energy. The sun is burning out, and there will be a heat death where the whole universe goes to one temperature, and it's going to be a real, real cold one. And there'll be no more usable energy. Now we're talking theoretically over, billions and billions of years. But the problem is, if you were to, let me put it in a real simple layman's term. If you were to walk up to a deserted beach and you saw a D battery laying in the sand, and you just happen to have a battery meter on you, and you were to just connect your battery meter to the battery, and you were to see that it's about half full, it's in the yellow, you could pretty well conclude it has power. Somebody had to put the power in it, because you could put that same charge on any of the sand or anywhere else, and you don't get that kind of power. When you have power in a battery, it's an indicator that an intelligent power installed the power inside of it.
I like how you put that.
And so, what's that?
I like how you address that.
And so, if the sun has power, it had to be put in there by something greater than the sun. If a person is, the obvious understanding of who charged up the battery to begin with, well, something like a person had to charge up the sun, but of course it would have to be greater than the sun. The Bible says very plainly we're created in God's image. So God would really fit the bill there. He would be all powerful. He would be omnipresent, and he would have the omniscience, the know-how. Now, the problem with saying that simple power alone can create everything without an energy conversion mechanism, that's where the evolutionists make a wrong turn. So if I were to have a gasoline and I were to pour it all over a car and I were to light it, there'd be plenty of power there, plenty of energy, but the car's not going to go anywhere. In fact, the car is going to break down even faster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But if I were to put that same fuel, a gasoline, into a fuel tank that feeds an engine that can convert the fuel into energy, now you have an energy conversion mechanism. You would still be able to, have a car that works, but you also have to have intelligence. So if you don't have a robot or a pre-programmed car or a person in the car driving it, you're going to go over a cliff. You're going to crash. The car's not going to move. So you have to have enough intelligence. You have to have enough power, and you have to have a design and purpose involved. And that all takes intelligence.
Yes.
If you don't have intelligence, if you don't have God, you don't have a working universe of people and pandas and seagulls and beauty.
Yeah.
You just don't get it. So there's not enough time. There's no transitional forms that evolution needs.
Yeah.
That evolution claims that has happened.
They just need time to justify the means. Lots of time is what they need. And I would like to reiterate on something here. Got to go to a break here real fast, but before I do, I want to make my point as well. Thank you, Garth. Very, very good stuff. I appreciate the comment from Naomi, Sarah Safina, but let me address this at the beginning, at the root cause.
Okay.
So, in order to understand where things come from, you have to look at the beginning. And it takes me into this flat earth concept. Where did it begin? And it began with a radical person who was a cult member. Keep that in mind. Hopefully, Naomi, you are not a supporter of the flat earth theory. So anyway, let's look at where this came from for a moment. It came from 5 people. It came from 5 individuals who had an agenda and didn't believe anything they taught, but their teaching was destructive enough. And over time, they knew it would take root. And the reason they embarked on this is because they had a distaste and hatred for the church. But this particular church was the London church. And I will say rightfully so, this London church was crooked. They had problems, subject for another time. But you see, people are easily affected by what happens to them in life. And as a vendetta formed, they created a theory that was debunked over and over again in the late 18th century, even debunked in the 19th century. Even some of the most famous creation scholars came forward and said, we have a serious problem here. Sure. And this comes down to almost in a sense like Marxism and those who have supported Marxism over the century. Joseph Stalin, big supporter of evolution because he knew you have to disarm the people and corrupt the mind to prevail. These 5 stooges embarked on a very serious plan. And so far it has worked. Back then it didn't, but it slowly took root. And unfortunately, they're paying the ultimate price for what they've done to humanity. So I would say this, Naomi, consider the source of where things come from, where this theory started. And I can advise you a great book on Amazon or Barnes & Noble that will help enlighten you. Now, I'm not going to say I'm not going to change your mind, but it might make you think a little bit more about what you're supporting, okay? And when you are enlightened by the truth, it sets you free, does it not? The book is called Exposing the Hidden Roots of the Evolutionary Agenda, The Emperors Who Had No Clothes, written by our wonderful friend who is now in the kingdom of heaven, Milt Marcy. I recommend you check that out. Fantastic book. Anyway, I think we both addressed that question. We're going to take a quick break, Garth. You're listening to Cryptozoological Talk on the RRN Ropen Radio Network. We'll be right back with my friend, Garth Guessman.
Hello, I'm Carl Ball, founder and director of the Creation Evidence Museum in Glen Rose, Texas. We are a 501c3 chartered educational, scientific, research, and religious entity. Our objective is to retrieve by international research, to excavate by direct participation, to research information that describes the truth about the entire cosmos. Our purpose is then to preserve those, to display those, and to disseminate those. From time to time, I have as guests certified scientists that will give you vital, intriguing information, and hopefully you'll return again and again. Welcome to our Creation Evidence Museum.
Your exclusive home for cryptozoological talk, the RRN, Salem, Oregon. Let's seek the truth.
Hi, I'm Crystal Jordan of the Ropen Radio Network. The RRN is a proud sponsor of the Wildlife Safari, which began as the vision and dream of one man, Frank Hart. It was Hart's goal to create a facility in the Pacific Northwest that would work to save rare and endangered species from all around the world. Wildlife Safari boasts one of the top cheetah breeding research centers on Earth. It is the #1 cheetah breeding facility outside of Africa and #2 on the planet. Take a trip past the incredibly inspiring African elephants. Dare yourself to end your journey with a trip through a carnivore loop featuring Wildlife Safari's top cheetah breeding grounds and ferocious Sumatran tigers. So the next time you plan your vacation, be sure to stop at the Wildlife Safari located in beautiful Southern Oregon. You are closer to Africa than you think.
All right, we're back on the Ropen Radio Network, and I feel like I put my friend on the spot here. He didn't even know he was coming on a radio program, but I have to do this. I'm a journalist at heart. Hopefully he doesn't mind too much. I'm speaking with Garth Guessman of South Bay Science and Genesis Park, who's done an amazing job over the years, the research he has provided for all of us to see for ourselves and decide whether or not we have some creatures in our world that are supposedly extinct or are free roamers right now. Still with me, Garth?
Yes.
So did you manage to pull up your email that I sent you?
Yeah, I wasn't able to read a lot of it, but I kind of got the gist.
Okay. So let me start off by saying this. A while back, I was speaking to Milt, and he shared with me something that was kind of a conversation between him and some of these organizations that he's spoken to over the years. One such organization is something I was familiar with for quite a while, Creation Ministries International. And I was a big ardent supporter of them, and I still think that they're doing a great job. But unfortunately, they're kind of turned a blind eye to some of the work that we do. The only one who's very receptive to it is Dr. Carl Baugh, and this is why I endorse Baugh's Museum.
Sure.
I've had some great chats with Joel Tay, a wonderful young man who's been a paleontologist for a long time, who's enlightened me to the feather conundrum. But anyway, our friend who has gone off now, who has graduated and is in heaven, Milt Marcy, or some would consider him Milton Marcy, had a nice little conversation with CMI. And I thought about how I wanted to do this. I thought, well, maybe Garth can help me. Why not? Between the two of us, we knew him. We enjoyed his presence. Yeah. We enjoyed everything he brought to the table. He was a wonderful man of God, and his voice deserved to be heard. And wow, did he have a voice.
Yeah. Yeah, I did.
He did radio, believe it or not. I at first didn't think he did, but I can see why he did radio for a long time. Then he got involved in the insurance business and was pedaling a bicycle to work. He didn't drive an expensive car to work. He pedaled.
Wow.
Loved by so many, even the people who work with him for a short amount of time at his insurance firm. I was honored to be at his memorial service. And it was hard because I thought I could get up there and speak clearly, but I couldn't. I just couldn't, even though the words were heartfelt. There was so much more I wanted to say without a script. And I tried. It was really hard. But I remembered what he had sent me. And I feel it only necessary to share this with all of you. And I think it'd be best if me and Garth did this together. I don't want to call these organizations the bad guys, really. They're doing a great job with their ministry. But the thing is they are overlooking something that's very important. And it's kind of spelled out here very clearly. In this, what I sent you through this email are the notes from CMI speaking with Milt Marcy. Okay? Sure. Their viewpoint versus his. So how do you feel about reading their viewpoint?
Oh, I'm not able to read. I don't have good enough lighting here. I'm so sorry.
Oh, okay. So poor lighting, that won't work. Okay. So maybe we should try a different approach. Maybe we should try this another time because I feel that we both should read this together. Okay.
Yeah. No, let's plan on doing it another time then. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry if you couldn't work on the fly like this, but in general, CMI, along with the Institute for Creation Research and Answers in Genesis, they're very open to the possibility that this could be true. But they don't go out and say that in public. They kind of, as scientists, they're open, but they go by what's actually been proven beyond a shadow of a doubt up to this point. Well, you got the scripture saying they existed with people. They will go that far. But they won't go as far as saying we have absolutely proof positive that they exist today. That's still in a research phase, and they're open to it. But, it's just one of those things. So when you press them, they're going to say, yeah, no, we just don't see it yet. But, and when you talk to them about your research, they'll go, oh, that's great research. Keep it going. They want to encourage you. But at the same time, they can't openly endorse you yet.
No,
they're a very public ministry, and I think maybe go a little overboard and nothing heavy into like bashing people that claim that these creatures exist. So, I mean, it's just one of those things. We're at a phase in creation research where we do not have absolutely perfect formal public displays of proof that dinosaurs exist or pterosaurs exist. We're not there yet. We're on the trail, but we're not there yet.
Yeah.
We got very great compelling evidence, but ultimately, we need to either get hours of close-up footage of this thing or have one in a cage, and flapping its wings or growling at you, or hissing at you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That'll be the ultimate proof.
Yeah. Yeah. Joe Taylor took a different approach. I'm glad that Dr. Baugh took a different approach. Love speaking with him privately. We had a phone call a while back, and I love how open he is. He's like, nope, I love what you're doing. Keep doing it. And if you need any help, I'm here. Although he's saying, hey, look, I'm partially retired here, if not all retired. And so I can't just journey anymore. I can't do things like that. But if you ever need my help with something, I'll be here. I love that. That's important to me. So I'll let you get back to your day. Thank you so much for joining us, Garth.
Well, it's been a pleasure. God bless you, man. I look forward to that next segment.
Yeah. As always, Garth Guessman on the Ropen Network. We'll let him go. You enjoy the rest of your Labor Day weekend.
Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye. Before we come to our next segment, let's dive back into this Tracy Lee Ford conversation about the Tyrannosaur anatomy.
The taller the palate, the larger the teeth. Now lizards, the palate is real close to the bottom of the skull, but in the theropods, you can see how much. You can see how much it fits in there. Now, one of the things that determines how far the jaw stops, when it stops actually, is the ectoterygoid.
This material here is a urethane-based epoxy plastic. The birds, yep.
So here's the ectoterygoid. You can see how it's curved. And my theory is that the ectoterygoid acts like a shock absorber. I found a skull which actually did turn out to be Allosaurus. The skull was cut in half. And you could see that the ectoterygoid was around the lower jaw. So it did act like a shock absorber and stopped the dentary. And I've seen that in other specimens. I've had other people argue that that's not how it works, but no, it does. It's there. This is the enamel. This is the root. You see how big the root is. And a lot of people think that the line of the enamel is where the tooth stopped at the jaw, but the tooth is constantly growing. It has another tooth at the bottom pushing it out. The tooth. They think that is where it ends. But no, the tooth continually grows.
Okay, so right now he's at the skull of a Tyrannosaur. So he's showing you exactly how this works. What's funny here is when I listen to the naysayers, it's okay to give an opinion or a theory, but this man is a hands-on paleontologist. If you're just doing research at home, that's fine. But then eventually you've got to do the research for yourself. You have got to get a skull for yourself and compare. That's what he's doing. But this man has been doing research and paleontology work for a long time. Now, I'm going to disagree with him about how old the Earth is and whether or not things evolve, which they clearly do not. But I can agree with him on just working on the anatomy itself. And clearly he's coming away with some answers that is difficult for the opposition to answer. Unless, again, they are hands-on paleontologist. I don't want to hear from someone who's just typing at their desk who's not affiliated with it at all. That's really not for them to say. I'm happy to hear your theory, happy to hear your thoughts, your personal thoughts, but I don't know if I can take that seriously compared to this man who's actually doing the work.
So even though it would have gingiva, but this line isn't where the tooth always stops. It just keeps growing until it falls out. Or it breaks off, which is interesting, is that you find a lot of tooth crowns, you don't find a tooth root, and you're really lucky to find a whole tooth. If it had lips, and the tooth would grow in that far and it closes its mouth, because I showed you how far the jaw closes, it would bite through the lips, unlike lizards. Now this is a tooth of stand that I was showing you before. Now, in the fossil, the teeth are, this is this tooth. You can see how far it extends in the jaw, but it has a replacement tooth pushing in it. This tooth cannot go any further into the jaw, so it is where it was. And the same with the lower jaw. You got a tooth, replacement tooth pushing around the other tooth. You got another one here. So these teeth are where they were. So they're not put in there by the preparators. That is where it was. Now there's a couple of reasons why people think the teeth are extended. One is what I just explained. The other two is during fossilization, the tooth became dislodged and went into the coming out of the premaxillary dentary, which is logical because you find toothless skull bones. So it happens, but not all the time. And if you look at other theropods with extended teeth, I mean, it happens a lot. You got your Dilophosaurus, your Ceratosaurus, your young Chinosaurus. This is Gorgosaurus. This is Masicosaurus. But look, see how the jaw goes? I mean, if it had lips, how would it cover that up? I mean, it's got this really weird jaw.
Some good fine points that he's making, absolutely. This is, again, Tracy Ford, paleontologist who has been studying these fossils for a very long time. And he has been studying the Tyrannosaur anatomy. Both sides make some good points. But I think the opposition of the lips is making an even better point. Then it comes down to you, what you're going to decide to believe. Evidently, it does. But it's not left in your hands. The paleontologists are going to take this, whether or not you agree with them or not. They're going to go ahead and start publishing articles saying, this is fact. I'm not going to play any more of that. I think you should go and listen for yourself. Go and watch for yourself. Again, it's on Fossil Crates. You can find their channel on Roku, Rumble, and Spotify. I think you can also find them. You're definitely going to find them on YouTube. 2 videos that actually help explain the proper anatomy of these creatures. All right, so I think I'm ready to move on to our next part here, and then we will come back to Milt Marcy. I almost get the feeling that maybe Peter Beach should be joining me here and reading this with me, just because Peter was very close to Milt. I know Milt had a lot of friends. And it doesn't seem right for me just to read this to you. It really needs 2 people to get the point across. We shall see. But my next guest here has been involved in paleontology for a long time. And he has written a book about it, which we will cover in one of our upcoming shows, that details and chronicles the history and mysteries of our planet. So this is Jeremy Aldaney, author on the Ropen Network. You mentioned you have done paleontology work, not secular paleontology work, or maybe that is true.
Creation Research Society.
Wow. Okay.
I wrote some technical papers for them on human and dinosaur tracks in Arizona, and also I've been I visited Carl Baugh and worked on his site in Biloxi River, and I've also been to Wyoming to the dinosaur site there in the Lance Formation, and I've been all over the place looking for fossils and occasionally meteorites.
Wonderful. That sounds like a long line of history there, maybe years of experience. How many years, just to be exact?
Oh, probably since I was probably back in the 70s.
Wow. Now, I usually don't ask this of a woman, but for a man, I think I feel more comfortable asking. Tell me how old you are.
77.
77. Okay. Well, that's a wonderful career there to have been all over. And you did work with Dr. Baugh's office out there on the Biloxi River. Wow. Amazing. Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah. I gave lectures at some of the big conferences, and like at one of them, Pittsburgh, I was about the only one that didn't have a PhD.
Okay. Maybe that's not necessary here.
No, I probably know more than some of these guys with PhDs because I've discovered some things that they don't acknowledge yet.
Oh, that is true, yeah. I'm under the impression that most PhDs are not believers.
Oh, no, I'm talking about creation PhDs.
Creation PhDs.
Because I discovered there were 2 major worldwide cataclysms, which the second one they don't acknowledge.
Interesting. Why is that?
Well, because they think that the Noah's flood was a universal flood that killed off all life on Earth, which is true. Yeah. The second one did not kill off all life on Earth. However, it did affect life all over the Earth. And that was how you have a separation between the Mesozoic and the Cenozoic, because those were 2 different events. The second one was 350 years after Noah's flood. And I also take a quote showing that Henry Morris agrees with me on that.
Okay. You know, I've heard
because
this before.
It wasn't just Chicxulub that caused the extinction of the dinosaurs. It was a asteroid shower, both at that time, about 2023-48 BC, and again in 2000 BC, at the time of Peleg's division, when the continents were divided, and that's when most of the mountain chains were formed.
Okay. That's different.
And that was also known as the Ice Age.
Yep, that one I would concur with, definitely. Now, most of my creation fellow brethren would probably not subscribe to a second flood, because they would say there's no record of that.
It's not a flood, but
Okay.
it would be mostly tsunamis, volcanic eruptions, and asteroid impacts.
Okay.
And also the abandonment of ancient civilizations worldwide.
I see. Good clarification, because I think you almost threw all of us for a loop.
like Tiwanaku.
Okay.
That city was built at sea level before it rose into the Andes Mountains. And the evolutionists say that was millions of years ago.
No.
Well, and how do they account for that city being built at sea level?
Good point. I think you make a lot of points that would be very difficult to refute. But you say that some of these other guys just are not on the same page, who are affiliated in Creation Ministries.
ICR and CRS, yes.
Yeah.
And like they were talking in a documentary I watched last night from the Ark Encounter, and they were talking about how the ages of the patriarchs went from several hundred years and dwindled down after the Noah's flood. But he forgot to mention that at the time of Noah, the lifespan of Noah's son dropped by 1/3, showing something happened then. And then 350 years later, at the time of Peleg, it drops another 1/3. And that shows that something happened at that time also.
Mm-hmm.
And that was when the Tower of Babel occurred, after they were scattered.
Yeah, and it sounds like you've done some really solid hands-on research in this matter. Has anyone else talked to you over the years?
No.
No.
There is a separation between the types of fossilization between the dinosaurs and the large mammals during the Cenozoic and especially the Pliocene and Pleistocene and the Quaternary. They're different kind of fossilization.
True.
And there are no dinosaurs with the mammals. And the odd thing is there are no mammals with the dinosaurs, except for small ones.
Okay, you're talking about as far as something that has been found, fossils that have been found?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yes, of course. That is true. We haven't been able to find anything that's in conjunction and together.
And a lot of the evidence of humans is post-flood. Even the evolutionists hominids in Olduvai Gorge, that was all post-flood.
Yeah. Well, I got to tell you, since you worked with Dr. Baugh's museum for quite a while, you probably are familiar with Joe Taylor as well, right?
Oh, he's a good friend, yeah.
Yeah. Did you get to go to his memorial service?
No, I went to his conference. That was one of the last conferences I went to.
Yeah.
And that picture I have on the internet was he was the one that took that picture.
Oh, is he? Okay. I was going to say, when it comes to finding images of you, I don't really find much. That's for sure, Jeremy.
Well, I don't take pictures of myself.
I understand. I think, but because of the voice that you have and because of the research that you've learned for yourself, that you have done hands-on, I think all of this is so important, though, for this generation, because they're probably starving for this news, this kind of info. as I
Yeah, I've been there, done that.
Yeah, it sounds like you have. That's a long, long career, a great one.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why I thought I should reach out to you and see if it's okay to contact you from time to time, because I'm going to have questions that I don't think many people can necessarily answer. And you probably could. I am looking to get more hands-on with Dr. Mark Armitage in Hell Creek, Montana. He does his dig ventures.
Armitage, he knows me.
Oh, good. We have the same people of interest here, which is good. I like that. Okay.
Yeah. We used to have a creation group here, Bible Science, and a lot of those people came to speak at our group.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, he's gone all over, and I'm glad he does. It's kind of like what you've done. He's kind of one of those patriarchs that we need to associate with. Because otherwise, where does our information come from? Well, it tends to come from a secular side that is not accurate. It's falsified.
Yeah.
Not all of it, but again, we're dealing with an evolutionary theory that's nothing more. A radical theory that was invented by some pretty rough people here. So, you know what, Jeremy, one second. I'm going to see if I can patch my fellow comrade through to our conversation, okay? One moment. Oops, I couldn't get it. That's okay. He was actually going to join me on this phone call because he wanted to hear from you as well, but I think he's late to the game, so that's okay. Anyway, so this is my friend and fellow evangelical. He actually does a lot of work here in Salem for reaching the lost, and his name is Jeff Carone. He's been studying this for a long time, and he's got a big heart for this field. So I want to try to get him more involved.
Yeah, I've always been, I used to call myself a mysteryologist. Now I think I'm what would be called an omniologist.
Oh,
because I'm interested in anything that is unexplained.
Really? Okay. I like that. That's a different approach. I think you're going to find that a lot of these international or these corporations, such as Creation Ministries International and others, have really shunned the work that I've done. I've tried reaching out and saying, hey, would you be willing to talk to me?
Yeah.
And they won't. They do not want to dip their hands in that cookie jar. They don't want to be affiliated with it at all. And I'm like, well, at least we're at least doing something about it. Because there's
I put together a lecture in Texas, ICR and CRS, and I got kind of a cold response.
So
like Michael Ord, kind of looked at me, and I just had that feeling that they weren't too happy with what I said, especially when I brought in UFOs.
Yeah. See, you're faced with the same predicament that I have.
Yeah, and there was a movie out there, and I got my the leaders of the creation group that I'm with, I got them to go to it. It was a good movie.
What was the movie?
Huh?
What was
I don't know what it was called. A few years ago.
Okay.
But I've been into that very much because I've seen some UFOs, and I know people who've seen them. Yep. And they're demonic is what they are, and they're preparing the world for the Antichrist.
Yes.
And they're not from other planets. So.
No, they're not. And I have seen things with my own eyes as well in the sky, during the day, during the night, that have really have helped shaped my my persona, what I think about the world around us. And it's enlightening to hear this from others too, because it's something that helps gather us together and try to come away with something to learn more about it and just spread awareness. Really,
it's important that we're living in the last days.
Oh, I think so too.
Preparing the world.
Yeah,
and that's part of it. And this Da Vinci Code is very important because they're trying to fool people and thinking Jesus had descendants, but it is real. They actually. This bloodline is the bloodline of the Nephilim, who is going to lead from Nimrod to the Antichrist.
Yeah, I agree with this. And this is some of the things I want to embark on.
Elongate skulls and these odd double row teeth and and the fact that they have 6 fingers and they're hybrids.
And it's interesting that you mentioned the finger placement. I mean, that's what the Native Americans used to do. They'd hold up their palm.
How?
Yeah, how? To see, okay, how many fingers do you have? How many fingers? Well, I know there's some. Yeah.
And then, of course, Lovelock Cave, somebody commented and said, oh, that's probably just a legend.
No.
No, those were real.
Yeah, there's a lot of truth to that. I could easily pick your brain here on a lot of subjects, but I'm trying to hold them one at a time.
Right.
And I wasn't sure, honestly, how you felt about being seen and heard at the same time on one of our upcoming programs. And I figured I'd leave that up to you. If you feel comfortable with just phone calls, we're happy to have you on the show and just continue to speak with you through the audio recordings that we do for our Spotify account. But if you like being seen, if you don't mind being seen, then we can work on that too for an upcoming show.
Okay.
Yeah. And one of the ideas I wanted to address, I don't want to do that now. We can give people just a taste of that. And this is, like you said, you're interested in the unknown, maybe even the hidden, which is the field I'm a part of, which is cryptozoology. And again, that's the one that is mostly shunned by the scientific community associated with Creation International and others. They shun this one.
You know, like the new dinosaur they discovered?
Yeah, tell me about that, though, Jeremy.
Well, they found 2 of these dinosaurs, and they're fairly new. And they've given them a name, Duonicus tuscobarbatari.
If you can pronounce it.
It's from the late Cretaceous. They found it there in Mongolia, where they found the velociraptor eggs years ago in the Flaming Cliffs. They found 2 of them. And now the descriptions of this dinosaur that was seen in New Guinea, there were a number of witnesses, and they've been seen for many years. And one of the latest ones, they showed him a dinosaur book, and he picked out this very dinosaur, the Duonicus.
Okay.
And it's about 7 feet tall, a little taller than a man. And it's a plant eater. It has 2 long fingers that it digs up apparently roots and for plant material. It's not carnivorous. Swims in the water from one island to another.
Okay.
And I think that proves that dinosaurs are not extinct.
Yeah. Well, I've gone through that many times. They're hard to find, that's for sure, but I do believe that some of them have definitely survived.
They're rare.
And when you said New Guinea, you're referring to Papua New Guinea, right?
Yeah, the same place they see these pterodactyls.
Yeah, the Ropen, which is what our network is named after, the Ropen Network. And
you think those are the flying, fiery serpents?
Yep, those are it, without a doubt.
I think so.
And Jeremy, I've seen that here in the United States, the glowing phenomena. So these pterosaurs, I don't know how many possess this ability, but they definitely have it. And I've seen it with my own eyes. Yeah, bioluminescence. Yeah.
Right.
I know that there were sightings of the iguanodon, supposed iguanodon type dinosaur in New Guinea as well. I wonder if that corresponds with this, because again, you have villagers, natives who have lived there who are seeing these things. Either if they want to call it the Murray, they want to call it something else. It might be in connection, but you said they recently discovered this particular dinosaur, and it lines up with what's being seen in New Guinea. You said they found it in Mongolia?
Yeah, they found fossils in Mongolia in the late Cretaceous.
And this is a new discovery which happened, I don't have those notes in front of me.
That'd be KT Boundary, yeah.
Okay. Was that
18 Neogene?
Was that this year or years before?
Oh, I think it was. I'm not sure.
Okay, but it's a new
It
discovery.
was very recent, though.
Okay, and are they correct in some of their assumptions of this anatomy?
No.
No. All right, explain, please.
It proves they didn't have feathers.
They tend to put the feathers on everything these days.
Yeah, and I'm glad they didn't do that in Jurassic Park. That would have made me sick.
Well, it is frustrating, yeah. I mean, well, that brings up a good question for me to ask you then. Do you believe any of them may have had some sort of fibers on their body?
They think that's probably decomposing collagen.
That's what I've heard, yeah.
It's one suggestion. However, some dinosaurs, they have found that they have feathers.
Right. And do you support that?
Those are terrestrial birds.
Okay. That's what I figured.
Yeah. Isn't it ridiculous how they lie about these things?
Why are they doing that? Are they doing it just to push a new agenda, or are they trying to get more funding?
To look like it's evolving.
Yeah, because you got to continue to protect
Support evolving.
Yeah, that just sounds like an agenda because they've got to constantly protect their frame of thinking. And they have to justify the means, and they need time to justify it.
Mm-hmm.
It's too bad. It really is, because it's tarnishing this field. It seems to me that people are taking a concept and just saying this is legit, when other paleontologists are saying, no, it's not. We need more research on this.
Yeah,
it's one thing
the ornithologists say, no, these paleontologists are wrong. They're not birds.
Yeah, interesting that's coming from the ornithologists.
Right, and they know better than the paleontologists.
Yeah. Now, just for the record's sake, ornithologist refers to someone who studies the bird types, correct?
Right.
Yeah. Otherwise, I don't think you're going to call them avian enthusiasts. That would be the right word for them. Yeah. Let me pick your brain on this one then, since we're on the subject of dinosaurs. Now, I know that pterosaurias are not dinosaurs or archosaurs, according to, they believe that it started off as a reptile and then it evolved into something with wings. We don't believe that at all. They were created alongside with everything else, but from the sixth day of creation. Now, they say that these guys have, new discoveries say these guys have fibers on their body, like a bat. But some of these guys are also claiming that they have it all over their body. And I say no, because if it's all over their body and wings, they would have a low survival rate because they don't have the same biomechanics. These aren't birds. They're reptiles.
Mm-hmm.
So if they had it all over their body and wings, wouldn't there be a low survival rate, Jeremy?
Well, I don't know.
Okay. I've heard others talk about this. They say, okay, well, their lung capacity is different. It's not the same lung capacity. Reason why birds can survive is, they have a different lung system that corresponds with hip bones and everything. So when it comes to pterosaurs, their lungs aren't the same. And if you got a heavy creature that's being weighed down by the weather, like, I guess you could make a comparison to ostrich, or maybe not. But ostriches, when they're born, they're well protected because if they get wet, they're going to die. They can't handle it the same way. Yeah. So it just makes me think, why do we have to keep changing something? Why are we addressing these guys as of birds when they're not? And then maybe we should start calling them birds then, if they're not really reptiles. Mm-hmm. I'm having a hard time buying it. I can't see it.
One time I said that we're really in trouble when paleontologists can't tell the difference between a dinosaur and a canary.
Or a chicken. Yeah, I guess we are. So let me come back to the time of service that you've been as a paleontologist. You said you're in your 70s now, and you started way back. And so that make it maybe 30 years of paleontology work, at least?
Something like that.
Yeah. That's long.
I published probably about 3 different papers. I was a senior researcher on it, both library and field.
Okay.
Because Rosenau, he was a minister, and he tended to go off on these wild stories.
No.
He'd make up stories about fossils.
Why would
the impressions that we were finding?
Okay.
And then there was one of us. He decided to drop out because he didn't go along with it. And then there was another one that said, "Oh yeah, it sounds like that could be." But I finally came to the conclusion that those tracks there in Tuba City are not the tracks of anything. They're just differential erosion.
I might have to have you
in my book
clarify on this. Where's this located?
But I did discover Dilophosaur dinosaur trackways, a number of them. It was in a flat layer underneath the mounds that we were finding these supposed tracks.
Okay.
And also that strata is out of place too, because the strata on top of the Dilophosaur dinosaur tracks that are supposed to be Jurassic, what is on top of them is Triassic, containing the petrified forest wood. And also some bones from the dinosaurs and possibly other things, and also unial clams, which are articulated, showing they were buried alive in the volcanic ash right on top of the tracks.
Well, that certainly causes a discrepancy, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's Triassic on top of Jurassic.
Well, if you want to support the timelines of such time periods. Yeah. Now, I know that you mentioned you've been affiliated with creation organizations.
Creation Research Society.
Yeah. Okay. Did you ever work amongst the secular side?
Well, I used to go to the Southern California Paleontological Society for many years. I go to their meetings and also go on all their field trips.
They probably didn't mind having you, or maybe they did. I don't know, because Joe was saying...
after a while, I think they found out that I was a creationist, and they trumped up some excuse to accuse me of something in order to kick me out of the club.
I see. Shame.
And I was getting disgusted at it anyhow, with all these kids from high school that were supporting, "Oh, we can tell which dinosaur is older because of the length of its limb."
I see. Well, that's...
that almost made me sick.
I'm sure it did. You've heard enough, you've seen enough over your lifespan that you're like, yeah.
I used to go to all the creation meetings too.
Okay.
And archaeology.
And what did you think of those?
Oh, they were good. I was with the Calico Early Man site, Ruth Simpson. She was like a grandmother to me.
Yeah.
I liked her very much. She was like a family member. But she believed in that they criticized her because they didn't go along with their idea of ancient man. But she was right. But on the other hand, she believed that it was hundreds of thousands, like 10,000 years or something. And I said, I knew that wasn't right.
Sure. Yeah.
But otherwise, she was right.
Yeah.
Those were not geofacts. Those are those were actual artifacts.
Okay. Let me come back here. let's go back into cryptozoology for a moment. And I know, like I said, I want to get to that point down the road, because with your book that you wrote, Mysteries of History Revealed Part 1 and Part 2, you're still working on fine-tuning these, I think, so with your something that that you had been explaining, you've been having some troubles trying to get those to be released.
I hope. Well, I was told that I couldn't change the bank account until I republished the book, and I couldn't seem to get hold of Amazon.
Really?
Because my computer collapsed, and I didn't have the passcodes. I hope this company I'm working with is legitimate. I did pay him $1,000.
Yeah.
But she was telling me that I have to pay another $500 to have it advertised.
Something's not right.
And it was $1,000 for both books. I said, well, I just want to publish one book right now and use whatever money's left over for the advertising. And she insisted they couldn't do that. But then she turned me over to this other guy who's managing it, and he said that he would have to ask somebody else. But he wants me to submit the book first.
Okay.
The documents.
I think these books are really important, but if we have people who want to go purchase them for themselves, is that going to cause an issue, or is it no? I mean, would you receive royalty for that?
I'm just getting over a flu.
Oh, that's good. Okay.
Yeah, they're still out there, but they do need a lot of reworking.
Okay.
Because I found a lot of typos, especially in the table of contents.
Yeah, they were released in 2015, or at least one of them was. And then maybe the other one followed a year later?
No, they were both same time.
Okay. Oh.
And they didn't charge me anything for it. They just published it.
Okay. Well.
And they were giving me royalty on it. But when my bank account, I switched it, and then I couldn't gain access to it. So I haven't been getting any royalty.
I see. They were probably wondering if, well, I was thinking that if you've switched it, you probably didn't give them a heads up first, did you? Or maybe you did.
To who?
To the company, whoever has
Amazon.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
if I could get hold of them.
Well, I can see where that would be a problem. Yeah, but you think it'd be an easy fix. That's too bad. I guess as soon as you find out more, let me know, because I think these will be important for coinciding with a show later on down the road. I hope it gets resolved soon, because that's pretty important.
I've got a lot of new information I put in there.
Well,
like
just
the Geonicus.
Yeah. That would be important. And like I said, with my question involving cryptozoology, this is one of the reasons why I think a lot of these creation organizations do not want to affiliate with it, because they say, hey, we know about the living dinosaur thing. No problem. And then there's that other part that you talk about, Jake, that is dark and disturbing. Well, I said, well, yeah, but our world is a supernatural realm. What do you want? These things inhabit it. And we have, as you know, you've heard reports of half man, half something else, whether they are supernatural or physical, solid manifestations, something like that along those lines. We're dealing with this in our world.
I think Bigfoot is a remnant of the Nephilim. I think they're part human. I don't think they're animals.
No, I don't think they're animals at all either, because why do they look like us too? It's almost if, Jeremy, these are just a hybrid that is a slap in the face to God's creation.
They're 8 feet tall, too. They're giants.
Yeah, they are. They're big. Most of these things that are half man, half something else are very big. They at least start off small.
They have feet just like humans. No animal has a foot like a human except a bear. It's similar, but not quite.
Yeah. So I guess I've had people tell me this. Maybe you can answer this, as this is a good question to ask. How do we know they're not created by God? How do we know they're not from him? Now, I have my own response to that, but what would you say to that, Jeremy?
Well, they're associated with crop circles. They're associated with megalithic sites, ancient worship sites. They're associated with UFO sightings. They're called skunk apes. They smell like sulfur, which is also associated with these hauntings and seance and such. And they're known to be cannibals.
It's true. Yeah, there are reports of that.
They're known to be very evil, and that's why they've been why people have fought them, especially the Paiute and others.
Why do you suppose some of them come to our aid to fight off another cryptid? There's stories of that. Are they trying to redeem themselves?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I've heard that sometimes UFO entities will help somebody
if it suits their agenda.
There was a site, and they help people, and but they never mentioned Jesus. They never mentioned God.
Right.
And when these contactees say, "Oh, this UFO entity, he helped me," they give praise to these extraterrestrials
instead of the creator.
Right.
Isn't that a shame?
Odd? Something pretty odd about that.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, it's disturbing that someone would choose to believe in aliens over God, the creator of all.
Yeah.
But think about something else too with these aliens. They always want something, and usually they're just abusing. I find that interesting. And then if you wake someone up to that, you say, "Hey, you're right. This entire time I've just been abused."
Yeah, and people are scared to death when they meet them.
Yeah, and I always
then they have to tranquilize
them, sedate them. Yeah, I'm sure. I know that you probably know this as well, due to Joe Jordan's testimony on 400 documented cases of abductions ceasing because they mentioned the name of Jesus, and these abductors stopped in their tracks.
Yeah, I remember some grays. Somebody said Jesus, and they turned and fled away screaming.
Yeah, it's like a needle to their heart, isn't it? Something. See, we're having this great discussion. I can go more and more, but I won't, because we'll follow through with other times if you're okay with me calling you.
Okay.
Because I like that idea.
The first UFO I saw, I was 8 years old, and it was in Altadena, and I was looking out with my mother in the backyard, and I saw this thing come up, level out, and grow in size, and it dived straight down looked like a teardrop with sparkling colors, and disappeared behind the fence. Mm-hmm. And Mother drew a picture of it afterwards, and she said she believed it was satanic. And I agreed with her.
Did you get a presence from it?
And I figured out, what?
Did you feel some sort of evil presence from it?
No.
No?
No, even the cats, there was 2 baby cats playing. They didn't seem to notice anything. And, years later, when I was studying it, I figured out where that was, and it was somewhere over JPL. And I knew that JPL had been founded by Jack Parsons, who was a friend of Aleister Crowley, and also was a friend of Scientology, L.J. Ron Hubbard.
That's correct.
And just recently, in updating my book, I discovered that I looked up the Devil's Gate Dam, which is in that area. It's a wilderness area. turns out that's where Jack Parsons and Aleister Crowley and Ron L. Hubbard and others were conducting witchcraft ceremonies.
Yep.
And that's also where he tested his rockets, Jack Parsons. And that's what took us to the moon. Tower of Babel.
Yep.
They're trying to reconstruct it. And I don't think they were ignorant. I think they were really going into space, or intending to. They might have succeeded.
Yeah.
But they would have technology that we don't know about. I think they knew how to levitate.
Yeah.
Things that Tesla discovered.
It's true. I'm familiar with these guys, these three men, and the work that they've done over the course of their life and what they've released into our world. So let me come back here before I let you go here. I know I'm taking quite a bit of your time, but we'll have more conversations. The subject.
I enjoy talking to you about these subjects. I have a friend that I have in-home care, and we talk a lot about these things. He's quite intelligent, and he agrees with me on all this. And I know there's a lot of people that seem to understand this. It's the media and the educational groups. They're the ones that oppose.
Exactly.
They're the ones that don't believe it.
No. The ones
but I think that a lot of the public do know the truth. They discovered that when Eugenie Scott of the Center for Science Education, when she read my article about humans and dinosaurs coexisting, she checked it out, and she was shocked to find that about 60-70% of people believe that dinosaurs and humans could have coexisted. Yeah. She was shocked, and so she came down on the educational groups and said, we have to teach more evolution propaganda, you know?
Mm-hmm. Scared,
We're not fooling people.
And we have lots of evidence for that. But the thing that probably throws a lot of people off about these cryptids, whether you want to call them lizard men or dog men or the Sasquatch, there's a lot. Some are supernatural in my opinion, but the other ones are solid. They're life forms, are organic, flesh and blood.
Mm-hmm. And they can be killed, I've heard. I don't know how.
You said can't or can?
They can.
Yeah.
Like at Roswell, there were 2 dead grays, and one was still alive. I think, though, that's genetic engineering.
Yeah.
I think they're part physical, but I think they're bodies for demons.
I had wondered if they were also part ultra-terrestrial or metaphysical. In other words, this is why we have reports where someone says, I shot at one of these things, it didn't do anything. And
right, yeah, like on Skinwalker Ranch when they shot at that wolf.
Yeah.
Didn't seem to affect it. But apparently it does affect them somewhat.
Yeah, in some
Maybe it doesn't
form.
Kill them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's lots of cases where, they talk about, the Wolfman or something like that, where or zombies where they can be shot and still survive.
Yep, I've heard that.
And you have to use a stake or something or a silver bullet, or I don't know, in order to kill them.
Yeah, and it's easy for us to think this is just myth, but it's not. It originated from somewhere.
Uh-huh.
And I think there's a combination of things.
I came across there was a report of this criminal who was associated with Loki. And he was robbed a bank or something, and the police surrounded him. And he just walked out there and gunned them all down. And they were shooting at him, and it didn't have any effect on him. He walked away. And I said, that's strange. That sounds like The Mask. Because when Jim Carrey put that mask on, he became Loki. and they'd shoot at him, and he said, "Did you miss me?" I guess not.
Yeah.
You can't kill them.
Well, that puts us in a bad situation.
When they're possessed by a strong demon, which I think it could be a dead Nephilim, a wandering spirit.
Well, why these creatures, though? Why would they want to, if we're dealing with real werewolves and lizard people, why do they look like this? Do you think that these things are true to their form, or are they being created as hybrids, or are they a genetic makeup of the fallen ones? Because I'm wondering, why would they want to look like this? Why are they masquerading like this in our world?
I don't know. Well, you can understand why they'd be reptilians, because Satan is always often associated with reptiles.
Yeah. Well, I remember something from, I think it was the Book of Enoch, where they said they sinned against reptiles.
Oh, yeah.
Now that's really weird, don't you think?
Uh-huh. But I don't believe the Book of Enoch. I think it's mostly false. And it's the books of Enoch. It's not just one.
Okay. Well, why do you feel it's false?
They talk about giants, so what is 100 feet tall or something. That's ridiculous.
That is big.
Nothing could survive that big. They even admit that they don't think the dinosaurs could live to pump blood to their brain because they're so large. And besides that, they're born of human women. Now, how would a woman give birth to a giant that's going to be 100 feet tall? The baby would be bigger than her.
I think that's that supernatural presence there, because we're talking about fallen beings who are beyond our realm. They can do whatever they want.
When they're physical, I don't believe they can be over 18 to 20 feet would be maximum.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they also may have some supernatural powers, too.
So do you think that these things that are masquerading around, do you think, I just mentioned lizard men, things like that. Are they hybrids being created as maybe super soldiers? Any thought on that?
I think so.
Yeah.
I don't think they're from another planet.
No.
Because if they're from another planet, how come they have a nose to breathe our oxygen?
Yeah. And why do they take on a form of a man? Why is it part man?
Why do they take a terrestrial form? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So those are the questions I have to throw in there because, people are seeing them. Society would like to shun that idea, but we're seeing them. This is why they're affiliated with this field. But good to have some clarity here and there. And
ICR and CRS, I think, want to stay away from it because they're afraid that they want to stay in good with the secular community.
Yes, they do, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
They want to be taken seriously, in my opinion. And they don't realize we're beyond. That ship has sailed. That ship has sailed completely. It's beyond that now. They might as well just start looking at the facts and the truth here and stop shunning certain things. But yet when something happens, they want the credit for it.
There are so many people that, they don't want to tell anybody about their UFO experience because they're afraid of being ridiculed. And a lot of times I know people who were. But my attitude is, I don't give a darn.
Yeah.
If you don't believe me, tough.
I'm glad you feel that way. Yeah. That's how Dr. Ba feels.
Too bad.
Yeah. And you're not alone in that. There's a lot of us who feel that way, and that's why we're doing what we do. This is why I do this show.
And those people are shunned, too, by the the creation elite.
And scientific community, they like this is,
and evolutionists, of course.
Yeah. Again, they call this thing a pseudoscience or whatever.
Yeah, and they can't come up with any evidence that proves that.
Or
they can't prove evolution.
No,
that's one thing you can tell in evolution is, so this thing's 100 million years old. How do you know that? Do you know somebody that was there?
No.
Prove it
It's
to
like,
me.
can you watch it evolve?
Prove it.
Yeah. No, they can't. They can't try.
They can't prove it.
They might try to come up with a concept that says they can.
Yeah,
I've heard all the debates.
Potassium argon.
Yeah.
Uranium to lead. Yeah. Excuse me. I know a lot of reliable researchers that say that that's total rubbish.
Might have a
and
better
all
word
those
for
different
it.
methods of dating,
Yeah.
they all give different dates.
Yeah.
And if they were accurate, they'd all give the same date.
Yep. Jeremy, thank you so much. It was great just chatting with you here.
Okay.
I definitely want to talk to you some more. I think that you have a lot to share, and it's absolutely necessary that I do that. So thank you so much for your willingness to chat with me, and keep me informed with what's happening with your books. I really want to be able to share that with everybody. But if it's,
Do you know if anybody that could advise me on it?
I will find out. Let me look into it and see what I can find. I got to know someone who might be able to fix
and
this.
And I would like to know whether this company is legitimate. Or should I go to the bank and ask for my money back?
You know what? I'll be looking into that immediately. What company are you with again?
Just a minute. I got their name here.
Okay.
Yeah. It's Marta Texel, LLC. And they're in Florida. And they go by the name of Platinum Book Publishers.
I'd be wondering about that, Jeremy.
Uh-huh.
If I was you, I'd start looking for a different company.
Uh-huh.
But let me see what I can do, too, on my end. And I'll keep you posted.
Okay.
And we'll see what we can come away with. But thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you.
Okay. Right now, they want me to send my book to them so they can make a decision on it.
Weird.
So, should I trust them?
If I had a little bit more knowledge about publishing companies, a part of me says no. That's what I'm thinking right now, but that has to be your decision.
Right.
That's why I would reach out to another company and say, here's my dilemma. What do you think of this? Or should I come and get on board with you guys instead? It wouldn't hurt to chat with someone else for a little bit about that and see what they come away with.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I would do.
Great. Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you so much for the conversation. I appreciate you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Bye-bye, sir.
Bye.
Jeremy Aldaney on the Ropen Network. We're going to take a break. And when we come back, there's more to discuss. As a matter of fact, I need to get into this Milt Marcy refutal of CMI. And I think I can have some help doing this from one side to the other. We'll see how well it goes. But this is in honor of Milt Marcy. You're listening to Cryptozoological Talk on the RRN Ropen Radio Network. We will be right back.
We never know when life will test us, when danger will round the corner, when we will be called upon to act. with everything on the line. But being prepared gives us the confidence to excel when our whole world hangs in the balance. 511 Tactical. Always be ready.
Hi, I'm Jacob Guerra, lead investigator and radio host for the Ropen Network. Dinosaurs represent a force in our world, inasmuch as so many young and old people alike are curious and deeply interested in knowing more about these creatures. How preserved are they? Are they simply desiccated, or have they degraded into unrecognizable former proteins? Are bone soft cells the only kind of dinosaur cells that exist? Can the cells be cultured, brought back to vitality and growth? Are dinosaur cells found around the globe? Are they really millions of years old? Or are they young, every one of them? These and many other questions might be answered as we progress in our endeavor to locate and characterize dinosaur soft tissue from around the Earth. If you would like to learn more, be sure to check out Dinosaur Soft Tissue Research Institute, dstri.org. Receive a free book and stay up to date with articles and events. The Ropen Network would like to acknowledge the amazing research provided by Dr. Mark Armitage and his soft tissue discovery. Go to Dinosaur Soft Tissue Research Institute.org today. So I think what we'll do right now is we'll give a call to Jeff, and him and I will go through this message of refuting CMI together. After all, Jeff did spend some time with Milt Marcy, so it seems only fitting on this network that he would assist me on this as well. I know that Garth is occupied, so this is our best opportunity, and I feel it is probably the right one for the time.
Hey, my brother. Good morning.
Good morning. How you doing, Jeff?
I'm doing good. Did yourself?
I'm doing really good. I was chatting with Garth, and we were going to read this together for Milt Marcy, in honor of Milt Marcy. But unfortunately, he was at an event, and he had poor lighting. So there was no way he was able to join me on this read. So I figured that you and I could do this together because you knew Milt for a short time, and you had a chance to meet him in person. So
I did, yes.
Yeah.
How'd the funeral go, by the way?
Oh, I thought it went really well. I was hoping for more people to come, but it was during the week. So
Right. That does complicate things, yes.
Yeah, it does. It does. But it went splendidly. Everybody had a chance to speak, and we had Design Science, had a few individuals there. Mark was there from Design Science, and I guess he was filling me in with, they usually have a booth at the Oregon State Fair. They didn't get to do that this time, unfortunately. But he had a good turnout, a great message for a man who lived a wonderful life, and really was listening to one of the stories how he never really wanted to drive to work. He'd like to pedal on a bicycle.
Yeah, always to the end, huh? To pedal on a bicycle.
Yeah. It made sense. And then so many people who worked for him just absolutely adored him, and they were just they were in tears because they were going to really, really miss him. He just left such a profound mark on their lives.
Hey, can you ask for anything better in this life than, when you're gone, to be thought of like that? I mean, and then welcome into the kingdom.
Yep, exactly. I can only hope it goes that way for me, and I'm sure you'd like that for yourself too.
Amen. Hear those words, well done, good and faithful servant, when I get there.
Yeah, of course. And for me, I guess, I have to wonder what that ceremony would be like for me. And I often wondered maybe I would just like to play music and open up the mic, let people speak, and then stream it too. That's the way I feel would be best for a celebration of my life. Because sometimes it's hard to tell it in words. Sometimes it's best described in music. I've always felt that.
Absolutely. Yeah, music is so powerful. Absolutely.
Jeff, as you and I know, there's a lot of organizations out there that have been fantastic in spreading the gospel and spreading the message through Creation Ministries. And there's a few that come to mind. CMI, Creation Ministries International. There is ICR. And then the one I'm always familiar with is Dr. Baugh's Museum in Texas. So we know from our standpoints, we know they've done a great job with ministering. But there's an issue, and it always comes up here and there, and I just recently experienced it again. There seems to be a problem with them acknowledging the work that we do or others have done in order to just discover new discovery when it comes to this field that I'm a part of, and you're a part of as well now. It's hard for them to acknowledge it, and they're very dismissive of it, except for maybe a few organizations. And recently I had a chat with Mark from Design Science, where Milt Marcy was a part of. And they wanted me to interview one of their fellow colleagues and give a shout out to what they're doing. I'm like, perfect, I'd love to. And then I received a message saying, no, thank you.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, and I don't think that's the fault of Mark and Design Science. Right. They were saying, hey, we really want you to talk to us, but you got shot down. And there was no reason as to why. I do personally know why, and I understand what they're saying and how they feel about this, and this is what we're up against, and that's just the way it goes.
Cryptozoology, right? Cryptozoology, because of the cryptozoology.
Well, I wasn't even going to mention that. It was just that I'm affiliated with that, and that
is why they shot you down.
Exactly. That's what ridiculous. I think. Yeah.
Do you think a lot of people, like, they shot you down, but do you think there's people within making that decision that actually believe the way we believe, and yet they're not willing to stick their neck out there?
I do think that is the case. Yeah. It's just they've established a really nice reputation for themselves. In the case of CMI, this is something you just don't toss away, and you're trying to gain the public interest. You want to be taken seriously, and therefore you're going to frown on anything else that is controversial. And there's no doubt.
And I guess go ahead.
There's no doubt that this is controversial, Jeff. You know that.
I think one of the greatest examples we can see that in action in the mainstream is when back in the 90s they found red blood cells inside, particularly the horn of the Triceratops, I believe. And so it started going mainstream, and then once mainstream pushed back, several of the scientists recounted and pushed themselves away from it. And Trey Smith did a great job of that in his video on dinosaurs. So I guess we've seen that. I mean, people are willing to recount what they know is to be true, recant what they know is to be true for their reputation.
Yeah, it is true. Of course, that discovery, it goes all the way back to the 60s. And then,
does it really?
Yep. And then rediscovered again in the 2000s. But only because of secular scientific studies that actually we've known about it for a long time. It's just that the secular world doesn't want to acknowledge it, and it only became more profound in the 2000s because of the secular study by Schweitzer. See?
Okay.
Yeah.
And we see that with carbon dating in diamonds too. Like, that's been well known that diamonds, they carbon date, but that is the same thing. They bury that.
Yeah, exactly.
And dinosaur bones and all that. Yeah. So,
but the problem here is that these organizations are for the soft tissue discovery, of course, but they don't realize that this corresponds and helps to prove what we've been speaking about.
That's true. Yeah.
They're not old. They're living. They're young.
Correct. What will it take, in your opinion, to get an actual life, to catch one live, I guess is what it would take to have a paradigm shift, correct? Like, until there's a live sample.
That is correct. They want probably a 360-degree video, because we know what's happening these days, and they also want a specimen. And this is just to convince our own people. What does that tell you?
Isn't that something else?
Yeah. I understand where they're coming from. It's just that, hey, look, don't put your hands in the cookie jar with us if you're not willing to give us some aid. And that's what we're going to find out here in a moment from Milt Marcy to one of these organizations, and the organization is CMI, that he had a nice chat with them, and he decided to document it. And since he's not here, and since the fact that he sent this to me, I feel it only necessary to read this, but I can't do it alone. And I thought about one of the guys from the studios, but no, I don't think I want to have Luis or Hunter or Jessica fill in for this one. No, we need someone who has met him, known him, maybe even has his book, which I think is an amazing book, and he was working on a second, but he didn't get to finish it at the time of his passing. And fitting that you and I do this together. I hope you don't mind, Jeff. This is this is one of those coin toss things in a way, but how do you feel about playing the opposition?
That's fine. Yep, let's do it.
Let's go. So you're going to be the one who's reading the text that's in black. I'm going to let you begin.
Okay. Well, you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. The thought that dinosaurs might be living in some long forgotten corner of the world has fanned the flames of curiosity for a long time. Many of our supporters believe it is true, and we have done much to support the possibility over the years.
I'm sorry, I'm not aware that you've done anything in that regard. I do not think CMI has substantially assisted in the search for living dinosaurs.
However, it is time for a critical reassessment.
Why is it time? Why don't you just leave this issue for others to decide, some of whom have had much more knowledge of the issues involved than you do?
Since biblical creationists are already held to a double standard, we should seek to find the best argument. At the same time, we must be free to allow older, outdated arguments to wither on the vine when we do find them.
So why don't you do that? You're trying to cut the vine off. Those of us are intimately involved in this issue are not trying to force our opinions on others, but we have powerful evidence that there could be living dinosaurs. Again, why do you feel the need to squelch the idea?
Science changes, but the Bible does not. Thus, we deny that the Bible is a scientific textbook. Since textbooks always contain mistakes and always become outdated, but when the Bible does touch on scientific aspects, it is always accurate, because the one who inspired it knows all the science that there is to know. Our arguments, we think creationists should not use page and this response to a critic serve as a clear record that we want to use the best argument.
I guess if you're using the idea of living dinosaurs as proof of creation, I would agree with you. But do you know anything about degrees of belief? Many of us are quite convinced there are living dinosaurs, but we won't use it as proof until we either get a specimen or a very good video evidence.
We are also willing to contradict what we may have said in the past when an argument becomes untenable. We believe that living dinosaurs have become one of those arguments.
Why do you at CMI feel that you have to be the referee in this matter?
This is an emotional argument for many people. Human nature makes us look for the magic bullet or the knockout punch evidence. For many, this seems to be wrapped up in their faith that the Bible is true. But we have said many times that we should not put our faith in science. The proposition of Scripture and what can be logically deduced for them should be held strongly. But models that creationists have developed to elucidate them should be held loosely.
Right. This is what I've been saying, but it seems that you are abandoning the concept and have discarded the model altogether and are holding very tightly to a model that excludes living dinosaurs.
Remember that the Lord Jesus himself reminded us that some will not believe if one was to rise from the dead, Luke 16:31. And we have multiple eyewitness testimonies that this event occurred. We already have tons of evidence to refute the evolutionary view of dinosaurs and to support the correct biblical view that dinosaurs did not die out millions of years ago.
The truth is that science means knowledge. And even when it comes to the scriptures, we require knowledge to affirm our belief. God blessed Abraham because he believed God, but God gave him many reasons to believe. Jesus told us beforehand that he was going to rise from the dead on the third day. Powerful evidence that he was who he said he was. And when he forgave the sins of the lame man, was criticized for it by the Pharisees, he said that to show he had the power to forgive sins, he would make the man get up and walk, which he did. That act convinced some that he was the Messiah. Others were still not convinced. As Christians, we stack evidence upon evidence. With each addition to the stack, we strengthen our faith. We should start with the Bible, but secular discoveries that support the Bible can be faith-building too.
Dinosaur soft tissue, dinosaur DNA, carbon-14 in every dinosaur sample that has been tested, see radiocarbon in dino bones, international conference results censored, and the documentation in dire dragons. We can deduce from the Bible that the earth is not millions of years old. Science agrees, by the way, that God created many different kinds of living organisms and that two of every that's unclean kind were on Noah's Ark. Scripture does not speak directly about dinosaurs, nor should we assume it is a comprehensive book of animal taxonomy. But we have enough evidence to conclude that dinosaurs certainly existed. If we are to fit them into biblical history, they would have been on the ark because they were air-breathing land animals, and therefore they would have been alive at least early in post-flood era. We note that many land animals have gone extinct. The promise God made to preserve animals on the ark was a general promise, not a specific claim that every species, or indeed every kind, would remain on the earth indefinitely. Indeed, extinction is just another reminder of the fall and how the earth is subject to continuing decay. And the Bible has depictions of some fascinating creatures, such as the behemoth in Job 40, 15 through 18, which seems to fit the description of a sauropod dinosaur, such as Dreadnought. No living creature has a tail that can be compared to the cedar, the largest tree in the Middle East. The evidence is strong that they lived in the post-flood era, and there is nothing that categorically tells us they must be extinct. So the idea that they might still be alive is tantalizing.
So why don't you just close up shop then and stick to the scriptures like many other ministries do? Why bring science into all of that if that's what you believe?
This brings us to a discussion about cryptozoology. This is literally the study of hidden animals. It is an attempt to prove that creatures widely regarded as extinct or imaginary are actually alive, but merely hidden. Such creatures are called cryptid. CMI has printed multiple articles on this subject over the years. Based on the information then available, and we do not regret having written them, while we have never claimed that dinosaurs are still alive today, we have always remained open to the possibility of finding one. Why wouldn't we be? However, we have now had decades to verify the claim. To date, not a single one has been confirmed. Keep in mind that this is not for a lack of looking.
Well, here is an erroneous assumption. Number one, what really does CMI know about this? It is exactly because no one is looking. As a person who has been intimately involved in this kind of work for the last 15 years, I can tell you that the number of people looking for these creatures is extremely small, and the efforts are underfunded and ill-equipped. Most of the time, the places that offer the best prospects of discovery are very hot, infested with diseases, dangerous creatures, mosquitoes, corrupt governments, corrupt locals, a variety of other challenges. They are also very expensive places to go to with a full expedition, and this limits the duration of time spent in the targeted areas. You're never going to get a government grant for millions of dollars for this type of research like they give out for other scientific research. As an example, the total number of days spent in equatorial Africa by Westerners searching for sauropods in the last 40 years is probably less than 100. We're talking about an area of interest comprising of more than millions of square miles. The creature we are looking for is in the water most of the time, and when it is out of the water, it is under a 3-layer canopy of forest. When it sticks its head out of the water, it looks like a snake. It can detect the presence of man from a considerable distance and can then submerge and probably stay underwater for hours. And it can move to a different location while under the water. When I asked a missionary friend who had been there for 40 years how many of those creatures there might be, his answer was 200. At that point, I became little overwhelmed at how long my odds were. Who is going to fund these trips? Evolutionists certainly don't want to see these creatures found, and they don't believe they exist anyway. Most Christians don't see what this has to do with the gospel and would rather give their money to the church or some other cause. That leaves just us creationists traveling on our own funds and a very few adventurers who haven't bought totally into the prevailing evolutionist paradigm. But if they are just curious, are they going to spend tens of thousands of dollars just to satisfy their curiosity? In 1980 and 81, University of Chicago biology professor Roy Bacall, a Nobel Prize winner and an evolutionist, but one not pushing that idea onto others, mounted 2 expeditions to the Likawala Swamp in the People's Republic of the Congo. Despite severe criticism from his peers, Roy became convinced that sauropods were living in that part of Africa. His expeditions attracted a lot of attention in the secular press. One person who took particular notice was Bill Gibbons, who lived in Scotland at the time. Bill was able to put together 3 extremely short expeditions between 1986 and 2001. He took his accumulated vacation time to do this. The focus of attention shifted north to Cameroon after that because the government of the People's Republic of Congo became impossible to work with, and there was ample evidence that the creatures were also in the Cameroon. Safety is also a concern, and he felt that it was much safer in the Cameroon. After I became involved in 2002, we had an expedition in 2003, and because of the sighting of a sauropod, we sent another team back 3 months later in early 2004. Then, we went in early 2006. We have had several trips since then. It should be remembered that most of the time is spent getting into and out of the largest areas. There are usually only 4 or 5 days actually in the targeted area. Because of our efforts, a Frenchman by the name of Michel Belot became interested and has sponsored a number of trips to that location. But those trips accommodate tourists and are not likely to have any success at discovering reclusive species. Stealth is one of the most important aspects in this endeavor. As any hunter will tell you, many of our expeditions undertaken by others were noisy affairs involving a number of people.
And as time goes by, it is increasingly unlikely that we will ever find one. What about the argument one can only say they don't exist today if we could explore every inch of the earth at the same time? This is actually nonsensical because we could apply it to anything we want, even non-existent or imaginary things like fairies that people believed in over 100 years ago, based upon alleged eyewitness testimony. In addition, unlike oceans, which are more difficult to explore due to the extreme depth and lack of life, we have explored essentially the entire surface of the earth.
Would you care to provide some details regarding that bold statement? Now, creationists are not immune from some of the tactics that evolutionists use to try to win arguments. This is called elephant hurling. Overstate your case without providing any evidence to back it up, as stated previously. There are areas of the Congo region that are very remote, but the Amazon and Papua New Guinea have even more of those areas.
From time to time, we have found weird and wonderful creatures and species that we did not even know existed. But these have generally been small creatures, and they usually belong to an already known taxon, such as Okapi, a member of the family of Gyrophilidae, named in 1901, and the Sala Amachak, discovered by a son of Theodore Roosevelt in the early 1900s. It was finally found alive in Vietnam in 1992. In the case of dinosaurs, we know what to look for. We have their fossils, meaning they are dead. And we have pretty much explored the whole planet.
This reminds me of when I was standing on the edge of a cliff in New Guinea, where I was in 2015 looking out over 25 miles of terrain that is straight up and down and covered with dense forest. There are no roads, no people. No people live there. We suspect there are pteranodons living in the area, but it is an extreme challenge trying to figure out how to get there and do it in a quiet and unobtrusive way that won't scare off the object of our search.
But the areas that are least explored, examples the Congo and West Papua, are the places where dinosaurs are supposedly living today. So we are left in a difficult situation. Good people are reporting on living dinosaurs in areas that are so remote that it's not easy to validate the claim.
Hold it. Are you now denying the claim you just made about the whole Earth having been explored?
Yet, even those reports go back decades. There are never secondary sightings. Ergo, none have been validated. That is a critical, important point. It's not like no humans live in these places.
I'm sorry, yes, it is like no humans live in some of those areas. I've been there myself, and in some of those areas, like the Amazon, the humans who live in the deep recesses of the jungle do not want any contact with outsiders and can be very violent in protecting their turf. On a tributary of the Congo River, we traveled 60 miles without any sign of human habitation, and but for a waterfall, could have gone much further.
Loggers, explorers, drug runners, poachers, and substance farmers regularly trapeze the backwoods areas of the world. It is nearly impossible to find places not impacted by humans, thus observed by humans.
I do not believe you have credible evidence to support this claim.
In the 1800s, people went to the western U.S. looking for living dinosaurs. They were not there.
This tactic is called bait and switch. Whether early pioneers saw dinosaurs or not has nothing to do with this discussion here.
There were other sightings over the years in multiple expeditions to remote areas looking for dinosaurs. They were never found. Due to the tension between the verbal reports and the absence of hard evidence, we hesitate to simply throw everything out. But our position is no longer wait and see. Instead, it is time to say that living dinosaurs no longer exist unless there is proven evidence to the contrary. Otherwise, claims that dinosaurs must still exist will be used by the evolutionists as yet another club with which to beat creationists.
It sounds to me like you are most concerned about the opinions of man than that of God we serve. Why is it that you are concerned about being clubbed by evolutionists at all? Evolutionists dispute almost every one of your creationist points of view.
This does not mean we reject the idea that dinosaurs previously lived with men, only that they are extremely unlikely to be living today. And there are strong creationist scientific reasons for saying so. Reporting responsibility and cautiously on alleged eyewitness accounts is not unreasonable, so long as we don't exaggerate or overdo it. For instance, if someone heard about Mokele Mobidi, a sauropod-like creature reported to be living in the Congo basin of Africa, and wanted to check out how strong the evidence was, or how weak, it would not be irresponsible if our website, meant to be a definitive source of biblical creationist ideas, had articles on it, based upon the trustworthiness of the report. We are already fighting on a major front in our opposition to mainstream scientific belief on evolution. It is therefore important to maintain integrity in our creationist argument.
There is no lack of integrity in simply supporting the truth. Sometimes that simply means stating what our beliefs are. We don't have to know everything for certain. After all, what part of God's knowledge do each of us possess? It's very, very small. And anyone who denies that is lying.
Many of our friends are also cryptozoology buffs. We do not wish to contradict them in the public, and we wish them good success in their search. However, we have reached a point where it is no longer credible to simply assume dinosaurs exist and only need to be found. Moreover, valuable Christian resources are being devoted unnecessarily to what appears to be fruitless endeavors, rather than supporting ministries or efforts we believe are more demonstrable in bearing fruit. That is helping to bring people to Christ. Our number one priority.
Oh, I get it. You don't like us getting a few crumbs that roll off your table? It always comes back to money, doesn't it? Well, you really don't have to worry. In all the time I've been doing this, we haven't gotten a red cent from any creationist organization, and I don't think many people have supported us in lieu of supporting you. We do this almost completely on our own dime.
All the evidence indicates dinosaurs are not still here. Of course, we would love it if they were, just as we would love it if someone was to discover Noah's Ark. So we take no pleasure in having to pour cold water on such claims. And our purpose is not to debunk for the sake of it. We are already fighting on a major front with our opposition to mainstream scientific belief on evolution. It is therefore important to maintain integrity in our creationist argument and not be sensationist, even if this means loss of opportunity for ministry exposure or even a financial support from well-meaning Christians who get excited about such claims. We are suggesting that we need to use wisdom and discernment here, allowing old ideas to be retired and focusing on the best current ideas to promote biblical creation, with the ultimate aim of promoting the gospel and being used by God to lead others to Christ.
This sounds like a lot of verbiage to simply say that you would like those dollars to be flowing to you, rather than to those who happen to be searching for living dinosaurs.
Does it even matter? We must ask. However, why this is so important for biblical creationism. If a living dinosaur species were found, evolutionists would still not change their mind.
Wrong, some would.
They would just incorporate it into their pre-existing worldview. We know this because many living fossils have been discovered, such as the William pine.
This was a relatively unknown tree before it was discovered still living.
And the coelacanth?
Again, the public at large was not affected too much by this discovery because they were not aware of its significance.
And there are many fossils out there assumed evolutionary place. They even said finding the William pine was like finding a living dinosaur. But putting aside some of the easily forgotten sensationalist headlines, the general reaction is, isn't that interesting? One of them managed to stay alive all this time. We can confidently say that the living dinosaur would not be the death knell of evolution.
You're probably right about that, but it would be one victory in a long war, and that's the war we are fighting, whether we like it or not.
Therefore, why spend such valuable resources in looking for them?
There's that mention of valuable resources again. It seems like your recurring theme, doesn't it?
Alternatively, some of our supporters feel that cryptozoology is an embarrassing chapter in our history, and thus should be buried as deeply as possible. We are suggesting that instead we should lay it aside and focus on the most powerful, up-to-date Achilles heel of evolutionary theory.
Well, you're free to do that, but I and those associated with the work we do will continue to check out leads that look promising. And when God thinks the time is right for a discovery, one will be made.
Testimonies are not proof. None of the crypto material can be scientifically documented since it's made up of personal testimonies. Eyewitness testimony is notoriously unreliable for a number of reasons, including those related to our fallen human condition and usually involve individual sightings, not sightings by groups of people.
Again, you are showing your naivety. How many groups of people venture deep into the bush in order to see one of these creatures? It is usually a fisherman who has ventured far from his usual haunts that has a sighting.
Even honest people can be prone to confirmation bias, so they see what they are expecting to see. For instance, millions of people claim to have encounters with extraterrestrials. But we can say for certain that they did not have an encounter with a being from some distant planet.
Responding to the paragraph above, let me cite our 2015 trip to New Guinea. I knew there had been reported sightings of pterosaurs within a radius of about 200 miles in a part of the nation of Papua New Guinea. This has been reported for several sources that I have considered reliable. Of those sightings, the most interesting one was that of the Sconce family, who had been missionaries on the island of New Britain. They had seen pteranodons flying in the sky over their village, and on one particular occasion, Harriet Sconce, the mother, saw a pteranodon from a distance of about 20 feet for about 5 minutes. Now, it is hard to believe she could have been mistaken in that situation. It is equally hard to believe that this lifelong missionary, who is now retired, is telling us a bald-faced lie. But it seems that it is exactly what you at CMI are saying. In 2015, Peter Beach and I traveled there to have a look for ourselves. And on the 6th day, we had a sighting of a pteranodon. It was high in the sky, and we didn't get very good footage of the brief sighting, but it was good enough to tell that whatever it was, the wings had bumps. The wings had bumps on them halfway out. Shall we call them claws? The wings were also shaped exactly as you expect from the paleontologist drawings. In that respect, they are different from just about every other large bird.
Every case must be judged on its merits. And when we do this with dinosaur claims, sadly, the evidence comes up lacking. But most are not even first-hand testimony. Instead, second-hand and sometimes even third-hand ones have been submitted to our community as truth. This is not scientific evidence.
Wrong. It is evidence. It's not proof. Court cases are won by preponderance of evidence.
Even alleged first-hand evidence is tricky. There has been cases of scientists deliberately misleading people in the past, and so we need to make sure our own house is in order. One way to do this is to avoid sensationalists or unsubstantiated claims. Examples, the many archaeological discoveries of the late Ron Wyatt. Any one of them would have made for a once-in-a-lifetime discovery, but none of which could be verified due to special circumstances. Our rule of thumb should be to not accept any testimony unless backed up by solid evidence, i.e. catch-ons, as stated above. We are already to a double standard. We are already held to a double standard. Let us, therefore, hold high standards ourselves and not fall prey to wishful thinking. Yeah.
So again, CMI believes they are the authority to decide when scientific research must cease on this subject.
Scientific issues and problems for large animals need a population. If the species is going to persist for centuries, Scientific issues and problems for large animals need a population if the species is going to persist for centuries. But most alleged sightings are of individual animals. While it is true that some carnivores are solitary, all this means is that the population density is low. They still need a population size of tens of thousands to maintain genetic viability over time.
Okay, this is called elephant hurling. You do need a breeding population, but not 10,000. There may have been 10,000 at one time, but that doesn't mean it has to stay that high. After all, the human population at the creation was 2, and after the flood, it was 8.
And the individual animals, especially the large ones, do not stay put. Ask any farmer on the edge of an elephant territory, how hard is it to live if they are alive? Dinosaurs must reproduce. They need mates. They must travel. And they would not live forever. But there is no evidence that they're actually alive.
Again, this is overstating your case. There is lots of evidence that some dinosaurs are still alive, just not enough to prove it.
Humans live all over the world.
No, there are places you can go where you will see no humans for many miles.
And satellites do a pretty good job of looking at the whole Earth comprehensively in real time.
I don't know where you are getting this information. Any real-time satellite imagery I know of is very hard to get. Think military and very expensive. Certainly too expensive for us working on a shoestring.
The imagery has enough resolution to see large animals from space. And let us not forget what can be seen from lower flying aircraft. We can see elephants and whales in those images. Why no large dinosaurs? Claiming they live in dense jungles and therefore cannot be seen is an example of special pleading.
Special pleading? Spent almost 2 full months sitting on a mountaintop in New Guinea and never once heard the drone of an airplane. Nothing but silence and the sounds of nature.
In fact, one of the authors of this article has seen firsthand how large animals like elephants make clearings in dense canopy. In short, it is fairly easy to see where large animals have been. They remove trees and brush, and dung deposits are everywhere. They are large animals after all. They cannot help but to modify their environment over time.
You are talking about elephants. You haven't said it, but you seem to be implying that large dinosaurs would have the same habits as elephants. Am I correct? Well, from what we know of the sauropods that we've been looking for, they are much different from elephants. The only similarity would be their size. They are very reclusive. They stay in the water most of the time. They only minimally alter their habit. And of course, there are many fewer of them. This is a good example of how you armchair adventurers jump to conclusions about things.
Claiming living dinosaurs are diminutive in another case of special pleading. It just so happens that the last remote places on Earth where dinosaurs might live are also the only places where they might be hiding. Yet all we have for evidence is verbal testimony from prior decades. This is not scientific data, and so we are forced to take a step back and say that we actually have no evidence.
You can say that because it appears you haven't kept up on the research. It would seem advisable to do that if you're going to write an article like this.
Dinosaurs cannot live in a sparse desert environment like the Australian outback because they need a lot of food. Giant marine reptiles cannot be out in the open oceans for the same reason. The open oceans are extreme deserts. Large animals need to live near a food source. And all such oceanic areas are currently being exploited by human fishing activities. Could they be hiding in dense jungles of South Central Africa or remote Pacific islands? Think of the crypto evidence we have been presented with thus far. It is sparse, based almost solely on verbal testimony, and follow-up expeditions have failed to substantiate any of the claims.
At the very least, I believe that follow-up expeditions have substantiated the fact that natives have indeed seen dinosaurs.
As mentioned earlier, science cannot prove the non-existence of anything. Within reason, you can easily prove an African elephant is not sitting on your lap. But you cannot prove there is no elephant within 100 miles of your location. Yet there comes a point where it is reasonable to conclude if an elephant is nearby, they leave evidence behind. They make noise. People would notice. In a similar way, it is reasonable to conclude that dinosaurs do not exist. The world is getting smaller by the day, and evidence for them being among us is not increasing. In fact, the opposite is true, hence this article.
Sorry, I don't believe your article has anything to do with the fading likelihood of living dinosaurs. It seems that it's all about you trying to open up new streams of income based on the mistaken notion that there is a lot of money invested in what we do that can be going to you.
Giant marine reptiles are likely the root source of some of the living dinosaur claims. Example is Nessie. But things like Plesiosaurus were air-breathing, meaning they need to be at the surface most of the time. We know that giant marine mammals exist precisely because we see them surface to breathe. They may be able to dive to extreme depth, but they stay on the surface most of their lives. While it might be true that cold-blooded reptiles need to breathe less than mammals, and some turtles can remain submerged almost indefinitely, large animals need more oxygen. Active hunters also need more. Giant marine reptiles would need to remain near the surface. They cannot be hiding at depth. Conversely, We knew the giant squid existed because of the evidence of huge sucker, disc, scars, and sperm whales who hunt them for food. They evaded detection for many years because they can live in very deep water and don't need to breathe air. But we knew they were there. We were having fishing boats everywhere in the ocean where there were fish and human eyeballs and video cameras over most coastlines. Similarly, Loch Ness in Scotland has lots of turboats and many hotels on its shore. The famous Nessie photos that spawned the legend we now have revealed as a hoax.
That broad brush works well when you don't give any details. A more honest statement would be that some of the photos appear to be hoaxes, but hoaxes often show up in places where there are real events too.
But to think of the industry that grew around it, 2+ sensors and automatic cameras have been installed all around the area by people hoping to catch Nessie, but without results. If Nessie was a plesiosaurus, and if the stories were inspired by historical sightings from centuries ago, she is certainly not alive today. It is time to move on. The quality of any piece of evidence is important. We cannot use something in a courtroom or in a scientific debate. Why would we even bring it up? And how is this helpful to our supporters if they likewise can't back up their claims? Why should we use doubtful arguments when there are stronger ones available?
Let me ask you gentlemen something. Have there ever been any discoveries made where a person had a hunch something was true, then spent years researching it until he finally was able to show the world that he was right? The reality is that all scientific discoveries happen that way only. I suppose you would have told Edison to stop messing around with those light bulb experiments. Oh, maybe not. Unless you suspected he was getting some money that you thought could have been going to you.
And if the arguments don't even convince reputable creationists, why would they convince evolutionists? People are trusting us to give them good arguments, so it is critical for us to be selective about the information we provide.
Well then, why don't you just continue being selective instead of reaching out and trying to throw a wrench into other creationist work?
Conclusions. Let's be discerning. Let's engage our minds with the best argument. Let's major on the best evidence. And we have some very good ones in this very area. And put the lesser ones on the back shelf. Let us especially reject the bad evidence when found. Why use the doubtful evidence before the clear living dinosaurs was a good idea from the past and was associated with the birth of modern creation movement. However, and despite a lot of effort on the part of some, it did not pan out.
I'm okay with putting living dinosaurs on the back shelf, but that does not sound like what you are promoting in this article.
This does not mean that dinosaurs are not a great entry point for creation evolution debate. Quite the opposite. Because the evidence we have gives us some of the strongest refutations of the grand scheme of evolution, living dinosaurs is not nearly as good an argument as soft tissue preservation and carbon-14 in dinosaur bones. The former remains undocumented. The latter comes straight to us from the laboratory. Which do you think is a better argument?
So because we have better arguments, we should abandon work on all others. Obviously, this article is all about money that CMI would like to get their hands on, that you think you are losing out on right now. I can offer comfort to you that you're not losing out on much. We continue to operate with the barest of funds, but rest assured, if we make a major discovery, you likely will be there telling the world that you were there supporting us all the way. And that's it, Jeff.
When was this done? When was this done?
I think it was done a couple of years ago.
Okay. What do you know about the CMI and AIG split?
I'm not familiar with the split.
So Answers in Genesis. So it was nationally. This was out of Australia, and Answers in the division here started putting out Answers in Genesis booklets, and they went after them. They went after them because they wanted the money for it too, right? And I think Answers in Genesis, they lost that first in Australian court, but I believe when I was researching that they won on appeal here in the American courts. But again, it was all about the dollar again, so you can really see that leaking in. And I see by this conversation here, you can see it was getting emotional on both sides. But CMI, they're so dismissive, and it's just, yeah, they have an agenda, and it's obvious. They're going to throw everything out. It's about an agenda. To me, the way it came across, like the argument, I could see kind of what they're saying, but they are willing to throw, like he was saying, like, you know, you're willing to throw all this out in regards, and there, you know, so many large animals that they, you know, we're constantly, what is it called? They're constantly finding new animals every day, and they're not all tiny, but they're so dismissive of him. So that was a couple years ago. So have they, that you know of, has CMI continued to attack cryptozoology and creation science, or like where are they at on that?
I think they mostly just stay out of it. Like I said, I've chatted with people in the past, and they're saying, hey, I like chatting with you, Jake, privately, but I cannot appear on your show. I cannot appear on a radio show or an actual live show. And that's
unbelievable.
Now, I understand what they're saying here too, but it is contradicting in so many ways.
Yeah.
It feels as if the agenda here is centered around money. Now, I hate to say that about these organizations, but hey, everybody wants a piece of the pie, right?
Right.
Which is odd.
Well, when things always, like when CMI first started, when all these when they start, when you're small, you know, even the Bible talks about that with Saul, actually, in the Bible, when Saul became king, you know, he was very reluctant to be king. He actually hid from Samuel, but when Saul got big and God had to judge him and everything, he sent Samuel to judge him. He goes, you were, you know, he talked to Saul about when you were small in your own eyes, you were humble, you to me. And so when these organizations started out, and they've helped so many people, and they present so much good information, but when they were humble and when they were small in their own eyes, that's when they were willing to partner with people like us and stuff like that, because they were small in their own eyes. Now they think they're too big for their britches kind of thing. So it is hard to talk about it like that. But that is really what's happening. It gets really big, and but isn't that human nature, Jake? People always start with good intention, and it always drifts to feeding the flesh. And it's hard enough that we have to fight against evolutionists and liberal mindset people. But then to have our own side, it almost feels like a Benedict Arnold, a betrayal, like Judas, that you stab in the back, because there is overwhelming evidence for dinosaurs. And the point is just like the Smithsonian hides so much stuff of giants. So many giants have been found. If you look at articles of newspapers from the 1800s and stuff, many articles on giant skeletons being found and grave sites and everything, and all that's been swept into the Smithsonian. I mean, less than 10% of what the Smithsonian has is even up for display. And so there's a bigger agenda of hiding these things. And so I've seen many pictures from fishing boats with plesiosaurus in the net. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There was one even on there where they beat it to death. And so those just disappear and go by the wayside, or they're right away labeled as fake forgeries and everything. And so what CMI is saying here is so ludicrous, because they have to have firsthand, they're suppressing information, because I'm sure a lot of them have seen a lot more than you or I have seen, you know what I mean? Because they're a central hub for this kind of information, and they're pushing it aside for their agenda. And my guess is there's some really big donors they have. They're like, hey, I'm not going to support it if you're going to be going down this road. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so it's really a shame, and it's hurtful. It wasn't me, but I feel hurt by it, because we're supposed to be brothers, supposed to do this together, and that I just think there's more. I think the evidence, just what he was saying, proof, no, but if this was a court case, the preponderance of evidence, we would win.
Yeah.
Hands down, we would win. And so it is really, really shameful that they're doing it, but it's all part of the bigger picture. And I don't understand why places like CMI, well, it just seems mainstream Christianity, they don't see the benefit of finding live dinosaurs or evidence of it With the generation we serve, I told you about my daughter's husband now. He was, he comes from a non-Christian family, and he was really set in evolution. I sat him down, and he watched his video with me, and I put Trey Smith's video on with the dinosaurs and the tissue samples. And he said, pause it. And he paused the TV, and he just looked. I mean, you could just see him red pilled on the spot. He goes, they lied to me. They lied to me. This is because it was a mainstream news article.
Yeah.
And they know this, and they hid it from me. And that, now he's going to church and everything now, Jake.
Wow.
So don't tell me that there's not a benefit in going down the cryptozoology thing, because it has more, even the stuff like you follow and the different, whether it be, goat man or all those other things like that. What it does is that the greatest lie the devil ever told is that he doesn't exist. And the new strategy of the enemy from the 40s going forward was that there's no spiritual world. And so Aleister Crowley, the wickedest man alive, self-proclaimed wickedest man alive, he said, they're called angel and demons. They'll be called something else tomorrow. And Liam, the entity that he met there when he was in Africa and he grew, actually looked just like a gray and quote-unquote alien. So what they want to do is they want to stamp out the spiritual. There's no spiritual realm. It's all aliens from different planets and everything. And you need to be wise enough and discernment enough to realize what they're doing. They're stamping out spirituality. They're stamping out creation science. So there is a need for cryptozoology to show that there's spiritual beings and everything, because it brings them the world, the Christian view, the biblical world back alive, because we serve a spiritual God. And so by stamping it out, by the cryptozoology, by living dinosaurs, what you're doing is you're bringing to life the pages of the Bible, that it's not just a fairy tale, that it's real. Because you talk about in Isaiah and stuff, it actually talks about, Azazel and the goat demon. It talks about the goat demon in the pages of the prophets of the Bible that wandered in deserted places. So they exist. They're real. And it's a shame that they can't see that. But this God of this world has blinded many people's eyes. And again, he kept keying on the fact that it's money driven, and that is really, it puts a blinder up, and we need not to be there. And I understand there needs to be a balance, because unfortunately money is what makes this world go around and everything else like that. But it shouldn't supersede your faith or what you know is right or true. And it seems like you get to the point where that's more important than your reputation, and doing air quotes.
Yeah.
And more important than, go ahead.
I will reiterate on something here, Jeff, that I think is important. If you look at the majority of congregations and churches, they're oblivious to all of this.
Amen.
I'm shocked by this. I'm shocked that there isn't more creation ministries being taught within churches. They've turned a blind eye to it. Well, no wonder they can't dispute or refute any of this. They don't have the tools to. They're not being told. They're not being shown. And I understand that this field is foreign, in a sense, to a lot of people. It's dark. It's disturbing. It's fantastic. All the things that I speak of. And it's something that most people just would not want to venture towards. Now, I understand that, but you're going to have to look at it someday.
Yeah.
Because there's a spiritual battle going on in our society that needs to be looked at. This ties in to that spiritual battle. And I find it interesting that famous author John Keel of the Mothman Prophecy said, this is a spiritual attack. That's coming from a secular man.
Yes, yes. And whether it be Tucker Carlson or so many other quote unquote whistleblowers that are coming out or talking time and time again, when they're pressed on the whole alien thing, they say, they over and over do a monologue, of their monologues, a montage of everybody that's been saying it, is that the Bible is more true than you know. What we're really dealing with is in the pages of the Bible. And these are secular people, and they're saying it because when you're going 20,000 miles an hour and you make a 90-degree turn, nothing in the material realm, it would be squished. It would be puddle. And yet they're capturing it with these vessels. And even these non-Christian people are saying, are going back to that. But that just shows you that they are spiritual, but they're on the bad guy side. And so, you got that. And then, it's in the halls of Congress. I'm going somewhere with this. They're starting to sequester people. There's whistleblowers. This is mainstream now, the whole alien thing. And they are, some of the top people are saying it is, look at the Bible. They're telling people to do this, right? At the same time, without declaring God as their Lord, which is a whole nother story. And you're right. The churches aren't touching this. And we're going to be playing catch up like the dang church always does. And you want to know how did we go from the 60s, the 70s? I understand the awakening, but on TV, for crying out loud, even a married couple had 2 separate beds they were sleeping in. And now you got gay people. How did the Christianity get lost? Where was the guard? Where was the old guard fighting for Christian values in this country? No, they were focusing on this and ignoring that. And we always play catch up as the church, right? Now you got gay pastors in the church, and now we want to play catch up. And you are so right. Why isn't creation science being taught in church? This is so important because it is the venue in which the enemy is driving his vehicle through to take kids out, because the enemy realizes the importance of indoctrination at a young age, of desensitizing people. And they're constantly flooded in schools with Darwinism and with homosexual ideology, and abortion isn't murdering, and all these other things that we won't touch in the church because we're just going to focus only on this. Well, we're called to be as harmless as a butterfly, but as wise as a serpent here. And the churches by large is going to be playing catch up again, and so many people are going to miss out on that because of us refusing to address these issues. Mm-hmm. And we continue to see, I just saw 3 days ago, they have a new device. It's Wi-Fi tracking. So picture this. And this was more what John saw on the island of Patmos that he wrote in Revelation. So now with over 90% accuracy, you could be 3 bedrooms away from the door closed. And with Wi-Fi signals, and your specific electrical cues that your body puts off, I can say that's Jake right there. That's who that is, through 3 walls. And so you're tracking people now with Wi-Fi technology. You don't need permission. It's not, because it's everywhere. And you look at Revelations, even let's pretend like me and you are in the 60s or 70s, 1900s. And you and I are studying Revelation, and it talks about, the Antichrist comes on the scene, and he's going to be able to watch over people and track people and know if they have the mark or not. And put your brain there. We'd be like, how is that even possible? That has to be magic. Maybe he's telepathic. How is this even possible? And yet John seen this almost 2,000 years ago. And now you take that where people can be tracked, and you have AI coming up like never before. And you can see how the beast, if you got somebody of that caliber, fallen one, with the AI technology they have now, being able to track the whole world. John saw this on an island of Patmos almost 2,000 years ago and tried to write it to us. And I've told you before, when the 2 witnesses are killed, that the whole world will exchange gifts. If me and you were having this discussion in the 60s and the 70s, we'd be like, that's ridiculous. It would take, 3 months for me to get a gift from here to Africa. But now with Amazon and these other carriers, we could literally give a gift to somebody in Africa and it'd be there tomorrow. And John saw this 2,000 years ago. So whether it be through that or the tracking and signs and wonders of signs, we're seeing that with this alien technology. And I really believe wholeheartedly, and I've got this for over a decade, that, the devil not only knows the Bible inside and out, he uses it as a map. He tries to, win the war. And he knows that when God takes his people out of here, before, the rapture, as I believe in, that he's going to have to come up with a pretty big reason on why all these people disappeared. And I know, and I really believe this, that the aliens are going to be, we took these bad people out of here for you. So we see right now on the world stage that the Christians are the problem. We are the problem. We're the bad people. Christian persecution is at an all-time high, and they are all across the Middle East and Africa. They're being killed at levels never seen before since the time of Nero in Rome, murdering Christians. And yet by and by the world's not doing nothing about it. You know what I mean? So we were already being painted as the bad guy and the reason why this world can't have peace. So when we get taken out of here by Christ and these aliens step in, you know, I'm doing air quotes because we know there's no extraterrestrial, it's interdimensional, right? It's interdimensional. Step in and be like, we remove these, you know, they're going to worship these things. No problem worshiping them. You know, they just got rid of all these people with their amazing technology. And you can sit back and you can discern and you can see spot on how that's going to take place. And yet we want to push back and not see the value in studying cryptozoology, not see the value in hunting real live specimens of dinosaurs. I mean, how can you not see that the value in that?
Yeah.
How that would set so many minds free. And so that's just a small thing of where I've been researching and going on and just seeing this blueprint of how Revelations is coming and how the enemy is getting ready to set up that strategy to enact his ultimate.
Yeah, and let me close with this, Jeff, because I know we're running short on time here. Wonderful point that you made. That's why I love having you on the show. Now, I understand what CMI is saying. I hear what they're saying in a nutshell, to sum it up. But they're overlooking vital points here. And this is why Milt is refuting them. He makes a great point. It's really, really unfortunate. So to close, I will say this. Garth and I were actually having a discussion and answering a question on YouTube about evolution. Milt Marcy was known for a lot of work that he did over the years. Some fantastic work. He traveled. He was an author. And I'm so grateful for the work that he provided in his book titled Exposing the Hidden Roots of the Evolutionary Agenda, The Emperors Who Had No Clothes. Now, as I said before, in order to understand and combat this theory, which is nothing more than a theory, you have to look at the roots behind it all. As it was with the Flat Earth and their radical cult leader, this is a fact, the same applies here. Where did it come from? Well, it came from 5 stooges whose agenda was to destroy the church because they had a personal vendetta against the Church of London. And they never thought or took very highly or believed in their own theory. And they have succeeded in ways that we never thought we would ever see. But this is where the church needs to be educated here and know how to fight it.
Yes.
Jeff, thank you so much for joining me.
Yes. Can we close in prayer? Would that be okay?
Please do.
All right. Father God, I thank you so much for each and every person out there listening. And Lord, I just pray that you would take this message and spread it far and wide, that you would set free each enslaved mind, Lord. And we do pray for the hunt for dinosaurs, Lord, that people would see the need and that money would flow in to help people go out there to prove this. Please bless each and every viewer and listener this morning. In the name of Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Jeff, for joining me. We'll have you back on again real soon. You have to enjoy the rest of your Friday. Have a great weekend.
It was great. Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Jeff Carone on the Ropen Network, Jeremy Aldaney, and Garth Guessman. I'm going to have to leave you now. We are short on time. I hope this message served you well. And like I said, if you're going to support evolution, you better go look at the core. Better look at the root and the purpose for why it was created. And it is a sad one. But this is fact. All it took was one man to do some strong, powerful, deep research to find the truth. And he found it, didn't he? Check out that book. I cannot change your mind. That must be you. You have to decide what you will believe. And you must decide who you will serve this day. I'm your host, Jacob Guerra. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next time on the Ropen Radio Network. I'm your host, Jacob Guerra. Thank you so much for listening.